It's all right. Just to double check, can you hear the washing machine in the background?
No.
No, I don't hear nothing.
Yeah. I saw this pretty
for a minute, I thought that was rain because I can see your window, but it must be something that's. It must be something that's on your window. It must be blind or something.
It does look like rain, but is it like some sort of
I was like, where is he that is streaming that much?
Funny story. Long story short, because it was a frustrating one. That was one of our methods. Shiny tape, reflective tape to deter pigeons. Which helps sometimes when it's bright, but it wasn't enough in windy. But because they don't like shiny moving objects because it kind of reminds them of predators and different things.
Yeah.
And fire. However, that wasn't enough. Long story short, we ended up having to get a net to physically block them because they even tried building a nest.
Oh, wow.
I could do one of them for my face. Because didn't I tell you the other day that one flew straight into my face?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was just earlier in the day before I went to see the Borderlands. And I walked past McDonald's and there's like a whole load of them there. And one decided to take flight and flew straight into my face.
Wow.
I was like, I know I've lost weight, but come on. I'm still there.
That pigeon probably had issues, to be honest.
It had more issues after it headbutted my face.
You might say it was a coup.
I hate that funny.
Saying that, I did the other day, a tiny bit of poo did get on me.
Oh,
when
no.
I was in Bristol. I was right outside Costa. I immediately wiped it with some tissue and antibac. Went inside, said what drink I want, and then went into the toilet to proceed to wash my hands very thoroughly. I was just like, oh my goodness, I hope I don't get sick or something.
It happens.
On your hair. Oh my goodness.
It happened in Swanage.
Oh yeah, that was horrible. Yeah, Pat, tell Manny what happened.
Yeah, so we walked out of a cafe and I had my Chargers hat on. And all of a sudden I felt a thud on it. I was like, what the hell was that? And I took it off and it was just like a lump of bird poo on it. Rob nearly threw up. I can't remember who it was that gave me tissue. It was either Ben or Humphrey. And then just spent the time just scrubbing it. It might have been Simon even.
Yeah, it was the tissues from Simon and he got the sanitizer out to kind of get rid of all the horrible.
That had been beaten with stains. But I had to make sure I hadn't scraped it off. But as I was scraping it off, Rob was like,
I could imagine. That is,
it's not nice. At school when I think it was in year 10 or 11, in the playground I had something similar happen on lunch where I just felt like a thud on the top of my hair. But as it happened, we had been swimming that day in PE. So I had a towel and shampoo and stuff with me. So then I had to go and wash my hair in the school toilets and the braids were down to there. So it was very hard to do in the sink and then sit in RE and maths, I think, the afternoon with a towel wrapped around my head. Fun. Apparently it's good luck. So there you go.
Yeah, I heard that too. I don't know why.
Sorry, wait, was washing your hair in the school toilets good luck? What? I think I came in the wrong station.
Apparently birds pooing on you is good luck.
Oh yeah, I've heard that. I don't think that's true. But I mean,
recently one on my coat, and when I took it to the dry cleaners that day, they were like, "Oh, go and buy a lottery ticket." I was like, "I don't particularly feel lucky." Thanks.
I mean, I think it gets to think about. What are the chances? But we'll see how it is.
Maybe I
I
should.
think it's kind of. I would have thought it would be a high percentage if you're like near a load of pigeons, especially in middle of London where there's thousands of them.
Yeah.
It's more likely to happen anywhere, and it's going to happen there.
Yeah, it happens with for two of us. It happened when we weren't in London.
Manchester
That's a
City
good point.
Centre.
Yeah.
It's quite close to the centre. It's near the universities, and the city centre is quite gross. So,
Interesting.
stuff.
Oh yeah, there was that post about finding drugs in the street.
Also,
Manchester.
friend, when we went to Brighton, I think it was the time when we went for your birthday. And like before we left, like we just got mobbed and like he had gotten like Dominique's bag and everything.
Oh yeah.
Or something.
Oh yeah.
It's the seagulls though, not the pigeons.
Yeah, seagulls. When Rob still lived in Brighton, Rob and Rachel. Yeah, he got mobbed by seagulls.
Seagulls are pretty.
Oh man. But yeah. Oh yeah, Simon, you okay?
Wait, sorry, just give me a second. Let's see. Give me. Oh, actually,
He's not okay after seeing Hope.
well, I mean that's a whole other conversation in itself. I'm gonna probably leave it on avatar mode and just leave my box face dude, and I'm just gonna be like listening in. I have
It's Chloe.
I have a lot of paperwork and a lot of other stuff to do.
That's okay, man. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, you can speak later when if you have time.
Yeah, I'm just trying to sort out. Like, I don't want to just suddenly. I don't want to suddenly just be working and suddenly you be talking or listening into you guys, and after suddenly you just hear lots of banging, and I'll be like, "Oh, that's the ovens. That's cool." Just give me a second. How do I? Can I do it on my headphones? Wait, let me do a quick check and let me check. Wait a second. Let me press this button if I'm muted.
Yeah. What I would say, Simon, don't worry too much. It's actually probably best. I'm trying to think, your phone is probably best at sound canceling than your headphones. Unless you got special headphones on your computer, that's probably better. But anyway.
Well, I'm on my phone, so we'll see how it is. So I might just have to like mute myself a lot more.
That's all right.
No worries, man.
All right. So, have you? Oh wait. So my other question was, because Rob is not here as well, are you guys doing? Who's doing the recording?
Corey is.
Yeah, Corey.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah, don't worry about that. She sorted it. She did a better job than me.
Oh, but
Yeah, she's a pro.
Yeah.
that's nice. But is she? Because like she's. Oh, I mean, I see the image, but I don't see her. Is she okay?
She does want to speak about Hope, not because she doesn't like it, but because she hasn't seen it.
I see. Okay. That's.
She'll go back later.
Did you see Little Miss Sunshine?
I mean, I've seen it.
Oh yeah, someone has, I think.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've seen it before, and I've didn't like it then. I'm same sort of like attitude to it now. It's like, oh no, man, it seems odd. We'll leave it at that for now, though. So, yeah. So, I mean, I guess it's a question of if you guys have started or not, and if we can go. So, Emmanuel, why did you choose these films?
Well, I really didn't think much about it, obviously, beforehand. Initially, so how I found out about Hope was in talking to Rob about the film Monster that I wanted to pick at one point, but it was still in cinema at the time. And he was saying, yeah, that he's got other films that he's done that are like really good or meant to be really good, etc. And found out about Hope. I saw that it was rated really highly. Understand why now. Actually, I need to put my scores. We both need to put our scores in the chat.
There's no scores.
Yeah. But yeah,
I'm being Alec. I'm drinking as well.
Oh man. But yeah, I thought initially, you know what? It sounds like it should be a really good film. It's a hard topic, but it seemed from what's said online, it seems like they did really well. And I don't want to pick something else that's really another hard, but not as hard as this. Not as hard as Hope, but I don't want to pick another kind of hard or sad film. So I was just like, oh, I haven't seen Little Miss Sunshine. And I saw the trailer. And I was like, oh, looks like it'll be okay. Oh, okay, I'll pick that. It's got some jokes in it.
I wanted to ask because I remember when we started doing the double bills, you asked what the link between the two were, and I was confused about what the link between these two were because they're so different in pretty much everything. But I guess it's like you're going for one really, really hard film to one that's it's got sort of, some people would say tough, hard. It was.
What did he say? Why?
Yeah, I guess it's one of those things. I can see why you would link them originally, because it's kind of like two stories, two different, very, very different perspectives about a little girl growing up and being surrounded by their family and how their family kind of shapes who they are. So that is a good link between the two of them. It's just both of them go through very, very different things, and it's like, whoa, that's the part that kind of divides them a bit. But the core start of the story is very similar. They're both just two normal families, just doing their thing, living their lives, and then one thing happens, and then they split.
It's also two normal families trying that, like, are a bit dysfunctional, but they're kind of doing everything they can.
Don't have much money
to help that too, but doing everything they can to help their daughter, despite all the issues everyone else might be dealing with, like how in Hope the parents' marriage seemed, like it was on the rocks, and this family, evidently every single person has some sort of issue that's going on, but they're like, this is what she needs, this is what we have to do to help her, so let's just do it. Which I think you said something about that to me before you announced the picks.
Yeah, you guys said it much better than I could ever word it. But yeah, that was why I had picked the two films, and not wanting to pick something that was too similar, just so we wouldn't be completely just depressed.
Well, yeah. I'm probably, I don't know if I'm right in saying this, but I'm probably the only one that watched them back to back.
I think you were, yeah.
So I'd imagine if
we did as well.
Oh crap!
Well, so for the three of us, like if we had have watched Hope and then something like Monster, I think we'd all be really depressed right now.
Yeah.
What did Rob say?
So it was more to do with like the last scene in Little Miss Sunshine. So the conversation came about because I told him about a dream I had the night before, that both me and him had 10-year-old daughters that were playing football, and we were both wearing Girl Dad t-shirts. I don't know why I had I've dreamed that vivid, but then Rob went into saying that he found it quite wholesome just because of the whole thing about the pageant was the girls following her dream and her family doing the best to facilitate her, and then at the end of the day, when they all came together to take the piss out of it in the end, he thought that was really well done, and sort of like it showed the family really coming together, which I can align with that as well.
Yeah, I that, as mad as that film was, it went to different levels. I did enjoy it. With Little Miss Sunshine, is seeing them come together despite what they went through. I wasn't expecting what happened to actually happen throughout the film. I was just like, this is what I picked? Oh my goodness.
And they're such different characters as well.
Yeah. And then you have the Dwayne realizes he's colorblind, the grandpa died, all this stuff, and at the end it's like, yeah, they needed that.
Yeah.
They needed that. And then you have the sound guy like clapping at the end because he's like, yeah, these are crazy people. You do good. And then the other guy who's been to too many of these and has earplugs in. It's like, yeah.
Like the system. God damn it.
I know this might be a little bit controversial, but my favourite character in it was Alan Hawkins. Just the spontaneous stuff he come out with. Like, it can be quite.
Oh, yeah.
In one hand, it can be quite problematic, but in another, as in terms of like viewing it as just a piece of entertainment, the way he came out of it and how confident his character was in saying most of it, I absolutely loved his character. Whereas the dad, I hated at the beginning. I was like, this guy is an absolute dick. His brother-in-law has just nearly killed himself, and all he's doing is calling him a loser for half the film.
Yeah, I agree. It was really hard to get on his side at the first half. But
yeah.
Sorry, we kind of went into talking about.
I was going to say stories missing is that.
Yeah, we'll come back to that bit anyway.
We'll talk about the grimness first.
Yeah. Sorry, Corey, if you wanted to say anything before we go back to Hope.
I don't think she's here at the minute. She's just.
She's in the other room. I think.
Oh, okay.
I'll give her a message and her phone will go off and she'll come back.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
So we'll at least speak a bit about Hope for a bit.
Yeah. Sorry, my toe's just bleeding a bit.
No.
I'm using
That's all right.
Why is a vitamin? A vitamin in the pasta box. Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, go on.
Have you done your opening statement or completed it? Yeah.
For both or just one?
Oh no, Hope. I think I finished it. If there's anything else, that's why I picked both the films. And even though you guys are very supportive, again, sorry.
Don't mention it.
But yeah, I'm done.
I picked Leaving Las Vegas, which was very, very depressing as well. So I'm going to break them out this week. I'm going to go first.
Yeah.
So I didn't really know what depths to expect when watching this the other day. Like, Alec had been bagging on it because of how depressing it was for a couple of days, and I was like, surely it's not that bad. And sort of like it started off, and it seems like a sweet little film at first, and then the thing happened. But I, having like watched many films like everyone else has, when she started heading off to school, I was like, oh no, I have a feeling I know what's going to happen. And it panned out that way, and it was horrible. Like, as someone who generally feels like they're quite paternal, seeing that happen to a little girl was quite heartbreaking. And then like the whole sort of recovery process, it must have been really hard on her. So this is apparently a true story as well.
Yeah. It is.
I had issues with the mum in the beginning because she's an 8-year-old girl been sent down the road to school on her own. I don't think she's quite old enough for it. But then again, I'm trying to remember how old I was when I started as well. But like,
in Southeast Asia, it's a bit different as well. Like, depending on the area, they get sent off to school by themselves very, very young.
Yeah.
Japan is for it, but yeah.
I was going to say, because like all the kids about that age are walking to the school themselves.
Yeah.
With all the boys and stuff. Heck, one of the boys were actually waiting with or planning to wait for her before the mum was like, teaching us, "Oh, you're waiting for Hope?" And he's like, no, we'll walk with the boys instead, as he blames himself in the later movie. So I feel like the situation, as unfortunate as the events that did plan out, was unfortunately possible, seeing that, how they, it's terrible.
Yeah, that makes sense. I also did have an issue with the dad because, in the beginning part of the film, he didn't seem to have a lot of interest in what was going on in his wife and daughter's life until the events happens. But once that happened, I think you really saw a good side of him. Now, me and Alec spoke separately, where he had issues with both parents towards the end of the film. More to do with the fact that when the mum said that she hoped other kids had to deal with what Hope had dealt with, I got what she meant, even though I think it was the way it was termed would seem quite bad. She didn't want Hope to stand out as this girl who got raped by a middle-aged drunk guy who'd already done prison time for similar offences. But she obviously didn't mean that she wanted all the other kids to have the same sort of scenario. But I didn't take too much into it because I think I could empathise with the parents a fair amount. But there was a couple of really nice moments in there as well, when the dad was speaking to Hope's friend and he started crying because he felt that he was to blame for it because he ran off. I thought it was quite sad and nice at the same time. It added a bit of humanity into the film. And when Hope revealed to her dad that she knew that it was him in the suit, and that whole little segment there I thought was really nice until the court case, which still annoys me. Especially when the judge is like, we know he's done it, he's very guilty, he's done shit like this before and he needs to be punished severely. However, he was drunk, so we're going to let him off with a shorter penalty. But I'm like, if you're drunk driving and you run a child over and kill the child, you get a lot more years. I'm like, why is this different? I sat at my laptop like how I am now, and I basically screamed at the screen. I was like, what?
And the fact that the whole jury was kind of on their side as well. Everyone was gasping in horror and being appalled by the verdict. And it's like, what? The judge is the villain here now. It's like,
it's the lack of justice. Unfortunately, if you look at the how to explain it, because unfortunately, because I've watched this film, I had to dive deeper into the history and stuff in it, and it's just like, oh right, the how to explain the laws in Korea are a bit different. It says it's like, how to describe it? It's the deniability, and
so basically, I'll say a little bit, and then you can fill in the gap, Simon. So straight up, if the drunk part didn't come into it, and the young girl, the defendant lawyer didn't get the girl to corroborate that he smelled of alcohol at the time, he would have got life. But in Korea, unfortunately, if someone's drunk, they have to lessen the sentence, drastically lessen the sentence, even if they've had similar offenses before. And there were, after the film came out and brought even more light to it, there was a lot of politicians like, I don't know if they made some ground. They weren't as successful as they wanted to be, but there was a lot of politicians who came out trying to bring in more laws to make sure stuff like that didn't happen again, like repeat offenses or alcohol and all that stuff. But there was a lot of backlash, and oh my goodness! But you can still never.
Oh no, I agree, because like, I mean, for this particular case, because it was plausible deniability, right? And like, unfortunately, there was no like CCTV or anything. Like, they were like that fucking defense attorney said, "Oh fucking hell, I don't know if I hate for the judge. I don't blame as much because he was doing it within like the articles of the law. But for that defense attorney, I was just like, he made me so angry. That defense attorney. I know he was doing his job, but fucking hell, Jesus Christ,
Well, yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
That's another thing, isn't it? It's like I could never be a defense attorney or a lawyer in general. That if your client is a convicted felon, is a criminal that's done this, how can you even possibly figure out how to defend this person? Yeah. Well, you might actually completely disagree with all the morality.
See,
it's horrible.
Yeah,
I could do it, but only for petty crimes.
Yeah, but the trouble is, it's like you're going to be something sprung on to someone that's messed up, like this case. You can't really predict who you get. That's the horrible thing.
It was technically speaking, in the broad terms of it, it was like, in terms of the quote unquote name of justice, he couldn't get like 100%, like he couldn't get life. Sorry, yeah, and that was the case where he got like a somewhat reduced sentence. So, but nowadays, the law has got increasingly more strict. So that shit, like, because these events happened, the law has got more strict for convicting felons. But unfortunately, even nowadays, there's like, well, heck, if I don't know eventually who will choose, it's probably be Mia Emanuel. There's like lots of films about young kids who are murderers, and they like get like, you know, they don't get convicted in like South Korea. So there's like a revenge killing spree from like the mum. There's like they don't know, these are movies, but I don't know if they're based on real life or not. Or I mean, when I get to it, we'll get to it. But it's like it's a troubling situation, and it's annoying, but it's the way that the justice system works there. Oh, and also to answer your question previously, Pat, when the mother said that, I believe she just had baby brain. If you've been around pregnant ladies enough, and they say some of the peculiar shit, and like I'm like, did you mean it this way, or did you mean it because you didn't want her to like feel like left out, or feel like alienated? Oh, I meant like I didn't want my daughter to be alienated. Yeah, okay, cool. You didn't mean the other thing. Yeah.
See, that was my exact thinking, because like, working in Smiths for like 10 years, I've like grown like loads of friendships with some of the girls there, and quite a few of them have had kids, so I can sort of relate to how she was thinking, because you know, most parents think the same way. They don't necessarily I'm not going to say speak sense, but like what is actually on their mind, it sometimes comes out a little bit differently. And I think if you don't really relate to their situation, I think you can really misinterpret it.
Yeah, and that's a good theme for the whole film. Really, it's like both the mum and dad and the Hope's parents were both kind of like, because of what they went through, they weren't thinking clearly. And certain points, especially in the beginning of the film, they were doing such stupid, rash decisions that in the normal state of mind, you would never even consider doing. Like the scene where they take Hope out of her original maternity ward and then take her and try and move her to somewhere else. I was literally pulling my hairs out, because like what they're doing, they're gonna literally hurt her and make things worse, and her catheter is going to come out or something, and she might even die because of how they literally just took her up and moved her to another wing.
Yeah.
And it's just like that, they're not thinking in their right mind, and because of that, and then you see her screaming and crying at her dad, he realizes the mistake he's done. Is like, shit, what have I done here? And that point is the turning point for him.
I think it's a big part of that scene was showing her trauma as well.
Hmm.
So like she'd had been badly violated by a bloke, and unfortunately her dad is also a bloke.
Yeah.
So so he's rushed her upstairs, and she's in pain again, and all she's seeing is this man that's causing you pain, even though it's accidental, because he's trying to bring her to a more safer place. So it meant that he couldn't see her for a while. The only time he could see her was when he was wearing the suit.
Oh man, that scene was horrendous. Because it reminds me of Emmanuel's other pick of like The Skin I Live In, where it's the same.
No.
It was the same situation where the daughter saw the dad and like had trauma and just literally thought, oh, the dad is like the attacker, and just seeing it. Well, I think this is the second time a film has done this, so it's like I don't know. It's just like, well, if I had a nickel for every time that's happened, I would have 2 nickels. But it's bad that it's happened twice. So it's like wow. It's just like it's just like dark trauma stuff. Seeing it there, and it's just like how to explain it? It's the worst. It's literally just the worst. I can't imagine going through that, and it's just like
I think with this film, you just think of like young kids that you have like a close enough relationship with. So like Rob and Rachel with Rachel's niece is me with Jackson. Like you think of what if the worst happens? How would you react? Like you may not be a parent, but you sort of have that parent sort of mentality, especially with young kids. And like I think the whole time when like that whole scene in the beginning where the bloke was attacking, it did make me feel sick. But what I would say is this film itself, despite the themes, was fantastic. I did enjoy it on a technical term. I think you'd have to be some weirdo if you enjoyed it personally. But like it was such a good pick. Like it was a story that I think needs to be told, especially more in Western audiences. I don't think we get nearly enough films of that rawness in the English language. So I did appreciate the pick.
Yeah. To touch on what you said about feeling like so personally kind of like triggered by the technicals and what the material was in this film. Like I really like the inclusion of I can't remember the name of the characters, but the dad's, was it his boss who worked at the factory at this? I thought he was good. Yeah, his manager, he was great because he was literally going through it with them on the second hand, that kind of thing. And he was even more irate than the dad was at points. He was really vocal with his disgust and anger at the trials and everything about it. And it's just like, yeah, we need to he's kind of the audience surrogate. It was just like, this is outrageous. This is the most bullshit thing. It's like,
he made me laugh in that by throwing a shoe at him.
Yeah, and he's like, fuck it off. So yeah, I love that point. Those little bits that kind of add to the realism of it all. Not that I was kind of like enjoying to see it, but it's just like I was just like connecting to these people for different reasons at different points, and he connected to me because of the internal kind of like how I felt about the whole thing. He's just the visual representation of the anger and the frustration, and all of them dealt with it their own different way. And it was a perfect example of quite how people would deal with trauma and how it would affect them emotionally and physically. And so yeah, when I saw this, it was kind of like, yeah, it's one of those films that kind of like, do I want to know more about this before going in? Would it have been just as effective if I didn't know this would happen? Because I kind of was quite thankful that I did know that this thing would happen to this poor little girl. But at the same time, if I went in cold, would this improve the experience or would it make it worse? So it's an interesting one to think about, but I'm kind of glad I did know, because it had this like, my heart was pounding in my chest because I could sense something horrible was going to happen. And then at the end, where the trial was happening, and it's like I know something horrible is going to happen at the end of the film just because Pat and Alec have said something happens at the end. It was like, oh crap! There's a lot of anticipation.
I apologise on my part in the spoilers.
Oh no, those weren't really spoilers because I didn't know. I was expecting something far worse to happen in a sense. So, in a way, it was kind of glad. I was glad it went the way it did to a point. But yeah, it was a very powerful film, like Cape Anam was. It's a really important story, kind of like everyone needs to see, no matter who you are, no matter how old you are, no matter what gender you are. This kind of, it's an uncomfortable subject, it's taboo in a way, but it's something that you kind of need to kind of like experience it for yourself just to kind of get your own thoughts, and because it only helps educate you and everyone around you in something like the worst, if the worst would happen. But yeah, acting wise, fantastic, very, very flawless. Everyone was really good. Everyone came on to their own as the film went on, and the writing was like super perfect because everyone was kind of like realistic, credible. This is a real life family that's kind of like, you can imagine this family going through this and experiencing this and acting the way they did because of how they are as people before. So kind of like how Parasite represented a normal kind of like downtrodden family trying to make ends meet and then trying to do their thing, and then things happen and like how they react to it is kind of how their character is. How their character is determines how they react to certain things, and this was a good example of like people reacting appropriately, inappropriately, but learning from their mistakes and trying to become better people because of what happened to them, and how the trauma makes them who they are. And so I feel everyone goes on this arc and becomes better than how they started, I think. So yeah, it is a really, really good film, but one I want to rush to see again, that's for sure.
yeah, but definitely not. But like the director, so I am cutting out some of the details, but actually I'm not really cutting out details. I can tell more details here. But he came out of retirement to make this film. And he was initially, like, I think trying to make, he initially wanted to try and make it, I think, 3 years before. He had made a very different film. It was kind of lackluster in like box office response. And since initially the mom, who he wanted to play the part, said no, he said, it's okay, fair enough. So, and maybe it came back to, he was like, I want to make this film to basically give hope and encouragement to victims of similar crimes. Because like me and Simon had mentioned, and as you've witnessed, the law over there, especially at the time, it needed to change. It was not good. And so yeah, he wanted to make that as a way to encourage those victims that life outside, like afterwards, can still be good. There can be hope in all goodness and trauma. And he wanted to try his best to encapsulate that into the film, like show how, yes, you can still have hope. There can be light into the tunnel kind of thing. And what kicked it off was that, so I think, I might get this a bit wrong, but I think the director's wife knew the actress who played the mom. And the initial reason she turned it down was not because of she didn't want to do the role at the time, because she didn't feel she would be good enough to play the role. She wasn't sure that she'd be ready. And then 3 years later, I think the wife of the director, who knew the mom actress, kind of passed the script on to her, and they were talking about it. And she said, actually, you know what? I actually think I really want to do. I think, even though I'm still not sure, like, if I can do it well enough, I feel like this film has come to me. Like, I'm meant to tell this story. I really want to tell this story and get this story out there. I really also want to encourage people who've gone through those situations through my my acting, my take on it. So yeah, she went into the role. Obviously, we think everyone did an amazing job. The guy who played the dad as well, I find it impressive that for the whole time they shot it, he stayed in character the whole time to really let it all soak in, to really play that character as best as possible. Like, living his kind of life, wearing his kind of clothes, being in that kind of area. So yeah, he did not come out of that character into the end. And at the end, everyone who was part of it came back. Like, even if they had nothing to do or shoot or whatever, they came back on the last day and kind of like really ended the last day of set together to really, like, not celebrate, but to kind of bring closure, yeah, and really show their support, just like how in real life, but also in the film, the director wanted to show how a lot of people rallied behind what happened to really show not just how bad this was, but also their support. And in real life, after, like, even the release of the film, so when it first got released, it was released around other stuff that were actually, like, was more bigger budget, had more marketing and whatnot. And at first, the first week, it wasn't doing so great the first few days, but word of mouth started spreading and lots of people started going to it. And the second week was even bigger than the first week. And the third week was only slightly less than the second week. But, like, even after, like, was it 10 weeks, it was still, like, quite high in terms of films being seen. And I think at the end, it had like 2.7 million roughly people go into it. Like, it did really well. And a lot of people throughout the country, it really rallied support in more petitions. Even though they got hundreds of thousands of signatures throughout the country to really to kind of petition to change the laws and whatnot. Even though the petitions unfortunately didn't change them directly, that also helped spur on politicians and different lawmakers from many different backgrounds to keep pushing to change things to the point where they are today. And yes, there's still things that need to be changed. And while on one side, it does get criticism for bringing this to light again, while the girl Nayoung wants to live a quiet life. At the same time, it kind of highlights changes that need to be made and how this horrible thing happened, but nothing really changed. And that's not right. A miscarriage of justice like this should have highlighted things that should have been changed, but it wasn't. And it's helped in that way. And really showed just how many people throughout the country, like, support what needs to change. And yeah, when you have a film with an impact like that,
Yeah, that's a shame. It's kind of helped, but it's still quite a big ask as well at the same time. But the fact it exists there's something like you're saying. At least people were seeing it. People are out there going to go back, and the word of mouth is spreading. And it's like, yeah, this is an awful subject matter and thing to see, but people need to be aware of this happened, and this kind of thing needs to be talked about more. We need to deal with this so this doesn't happen again, or even has a chance to happen again. So yeah, we have to get to the root of the problem, and there's not much else we can do apart from spread awareness. So yeah, that's a tough one.
Yes. I think when I read into the real case behind it, it's like even worse. There's like, let's say stuff that maybe they didn't quite include or focus on, which it makes sense. I'm glad they didn't inside the film. So they mentioned he had previous offenses. So, and it really just highlights just how bad the law system is over there at the time.
Yeah.
But basically, so ever since he was a teenager, he's done a lot of different crimes, but they were all petty crimes or theft. And he would be in and out of jail growing up. When he was 30, he committed his first, I think, proper sexual assault and raped someone who was 19. He spent 2 to 3 years in jail for that and got back out. After that, he then killed a 60-year-old man and did basically no time for it.
Right, he killed, and there was murder, and he still didn't get time.
Yeah. So he basically did no time for it. After,
He might have been manslaughter. The Wikipedia just said he assaulted a man.
Oh,
So-
right.
He set out to kill him, but the guy died.
So he assaulted him on the bridge, and the guy tripped up and fell off the bridge, basically. Or something like that. Oh.
Yeah, he got like no time for it. He then, after that, before the case in this movie, he was in and out constantly for assault. So one of them was a bar hostess. He's just like they say, he had a long history of this. And I'll probably leave the worst to last. And throughout this case, so his wife, he was married.
Somehow.
Yeah. He kind of backed him up, stood by him, and said how good of a person he was. I think in his 30s, like since he was 30 or whatnot. And she was just like, oh yeah, it's just because of the alcohol. You know, he's a good man. She would like do lots of stuff for him, like bring him food, all sorts of stuff. She seemingly genuinely believed that he's a good guy and he's not to blame for any of this and he's not at fault. And it's just like, wait, what?
Oh, brainwashing in play there.
Huh?
She must have been brainwashed if she thought that.
Yeah.
Try to think what he's done to her whilst he was drunk. And she's done, oh, but he doesn't mean it.
Yeah, and she did say, I forgot that. She said he's never touched me, even when drunk. Like, he's never harmed me. He's never hurt me. He's a good guy.
That sounds like Stockholm syndrome to me.
Yeah. I'm glad they didn't include that in the film.
Yeah. That would have dragged it a bit, because it's more about, the film should be focused about the family and the girl, and if it's focused on him, even if it's portraying him as a bad, horrible piece of work, it's still kind of making the audience kind of like question him a bit, and you don't want that because that would defeat the point of the movie.
Yeah. So yeah, I was glad they didn't. Yeah. But yeah, you said it great. I was glad they did not include that part, but that was mad. After he got out, he had to wear an ankle bracelet for, was it 7 months or a few years?
I think it was like 6 years.
Yeah, I can't remember how long, but the city did spend like millions to basically monitor him. Because
he went back to the same town.
Oh yeah,
Less than a kilometer away from the real victim.
Yeah,
and the town people, and no one was happy that he was there. Basically,
yeah, no one wanted him there. Even the dad was just like, "Look, I will take out a loan to give you money to move away, to leave," which is a very reasonable response. I mean,
the fact that the dad isn't like, "I will just go around and kill him." Yeah, anything other than that is a concession in my book.
Yeah, he probably wanted to, but like we saw in the film, his daughter really didn't want that. She wanted to, to still have her dad, because he would have gone to jail, and for a crazy long time, because it would have been premeditated.
Yeah. He would have done more time than the bloke.
Yeah, that's the messed up thing about it.
Yeah. And it in a way it does make me, it kind of reminds me of like Have Sympathy for Mr. Revenge. In a way that unfortunately in that film he didn't get justice at all. So he was taking justice himself.
Yeah.
But you've got these kind of situations, unfortunately.
You can see what makes these people become they are. That's how Batman becomes Batman. It's just like people are given the justice they deserve, so someone has to take the law into their own hands.
Justice.
Because the system isn't working. It's broken.
Yeah. I could imagine. I would probably do exactly the same, or want to do exactly the same. Is a situation when it came to like, because obviously he does not want to have that happen again to his daughter.
Yeah.
And he wants to do whatever it is to protect her, even if it means sacrificing his life. At least she's safe, or safe from this guy who literally threatened him.
Yes.
It really annoyed me that the guy was so aware of like, yeah, I did it, but I'm going to play like I didn't know what I did. Like, it's that scene when the dad goes to the jail and he's like, oh, I remember she was a cheeky girl. She must have got it from her father.
Oh, yeah, God. Yeah,
is that not only are you just an absolutely like deplorable human being, but you're going to very subtly be like, yeah, I did it, but I know how to get out of making this any worse than it really is. Like, that's, yeah, I just kind of hate that.
Yeah, that was horrible.
What's messed up? Oh, Karen.
Yeah, it was the scene, but where he goes to see him behind like the glass. That bit. Well, it was so because it's like he's doing something that's so incredibly brave and at the same time incredibly risky, and like, why are you doing this? But he's so cool to a point. And it's like, yeah, he just wants to listen to this man to see if there's any ounce of morality left in him. And it goes well up until that point. Camilla mentioned it, and then he just talks about her like, yeah, she's just like you. She's just like so. He's just like describing her and insulting him at the same time, and managing to kind of roll them both up, because at that point, it's not like he's lost his mind. He's not like completely insane or like. He's psychopathic, but at the same time he knows what he's doing, and that's kind of worse in a way, because if he was just psychopathic and he was literally insane, that was just a mental case that had no control of his emotions or anything, then yeah, he's evil and horrible, but his mind isn't controlling him the way a normal person is. But this is a different kind of evil. This guy is deliberate and methodical, and you can't reason with someone like that. And it's like, you can see why he just was wanting to smash that window down again. And it's that, yeah. That's horrible.
Yeah. And also, when he got released, they installed like a whole bunch of CCTV cameras just because of him. I think it's probably another one of those things where they probably didn't have something like this like really ever happen before in their neighborhood. I think all the stuff he did was probably like further out or whatnot. But and I think very recently, so he's still in an ankle bracelet to this day. And he's got a curfew as well. So
he broke and went to jail for.
Yeah, he broke. He was hanging around outside past 9 p.m., which is his curfew, for around about 40 minutes. So they put him in jail for, I think, 3 more years. Or 3 more months.
And that was only December last year.
Yeah, so December to March this year. Oh, no, he did it in December and then got sentenced to jail in March for breaking curfew. So they're still really watching him to ensure he doesn't do something like this again. But hopefully, because as people have mentioned, or as history would kind of show, in South Korea, there have been criminals who managed to make it out of the country even when they've somehow been wearing ankle bracelets.
Wow, really?
Yeah. So this was another reason why they really didn't feel safe. The people in the town, they was just like, oh, he's got an ankle bracelet. I was like, it doesn't matter. What about those criminals who made it out the country?
So I'm sorry, an ankle bracelet and a curfew, if you're allowed to walk down the street or if you're allowed to live up the road from your victim, then what does that really, it doesn't really change anything.
Yeah, it doesn't change anything, does it? Yeah. Because that's what I was going to mention, actually, because that what you're saying earlier about the whole thing about Hope being left alone to walk to school. It seemed to me that the vibe I got from it is a very small, very tightly knit, very located kind of community little town. Everything's very in walking distance. It's a really tiny, small town that kind of like everyone kind of knows everyone by name. Every neighbor is kind of in good terms with each other and stuff like that. So I can see like, oh yeah, it's only 10 minutes down the road to the school. I get why she would be allowed to walk with her friends just to save time and stuff. And it seemed like everything was kind of like a nice, tightly knit community. And then obviously it's a perfect spot for a predator like this bastard to come in. So it is, yeah. So it made me think and question is like, even if your community seems nice on the surface, there still might be a danger that's out there that you need to be wary of. And the fact that he was a convicted criminal before, and he was living in this nice community, just doing this thing, even with his bracelet on, his ankle bracelet, and it's like, then what is the point of it? You might as well just take it off, because he's clearly allowed to do what he wants, and it's like, it's just frustrating. It's horrible.
And I think part of what maybe at some point want to watch the film was because I hear about stories like this often on, like, from South Korea, different cases that like come back to light and are brought back to trial again, or are re-looked into, or there's people who were involved in the case and were corrupt. Because there's just like the therapist, where she said what happened to her daughter. there's like multiple cases of those, and like I think recently last year, a case similar to what happened to the therapist's daughter got brought up again. And again, lots of petitions being signed and people like really like yelling at them and cussing them and saying, this is not good enough. Like, how is this allowed to happen? How are these people allowed to, like, you've got people who are in like higher positions, but like corporately with money and whatnot, getting away with different stuff. And it's truly horrible. So yeah, that made me want to see this in the end. But yeah, it definitely had me crying. It had us both crying, but yeah, it definitely had me crying at multiple points.
Yeah,
I think that I'd be like, I would, get some -1 for enjoyment, but I'd be like, it was so well done. It's a very impressive film that I absolutely categorically hated every second.
Yeah.
And that's why it took me like 3 attempts to watch it.
Yeah.
It makes it a hard score enjoyment because like it's a 1 for enjoyment, but at the same time,
You compelled. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it gets a 2 because you had the moments of hope. But yeah, it's like
I think the good bits can outweigh the bad bits in this case.
yeah, so it's just like
Oh yeah, that's the thing. Because there were, despite the horribleness in it, there were so many. Because like when we always have like every week, we're like, oh, what's your favorite scene? Sometimes we don't have one. We struggle. I do have like quite a few favorite scenes in this. There were so many good, lovely moments in this film, despite the grimness of it all, in my opinion. So I can think of a couple right now. If you guys have favorite scenes, I'll hear what you guys thought because I've got a few.
yeah,
My favorite scene is when they first go in dressed as the cartoon characters to do the dance. And my other favorite scene is the one when the little boy is trying to Hope's dad.
Yeah, the one Pat said, yeah, that's great.
Yeah. And then my other favorite scene is when the dad is like scenes is when the dad's popping up as the character. I think that's really sweet.
Yeah, just in the background. He's always constantly there. That was just really lovely.
yeah. You go, Ben. Okay.
Yeah, so obviously you mentioned those ones particularly. And obviously, like one of the first times, the kind of the seed is sown for that when he gets the balloon and he just doesn't know what to do with it, so he kind of deflates it and puts it in his head, and he's like, "Well, I'm going to do this or not?" No, he's kind of like, "Oh, what's he doing? Oh, he's not going to do it." But the idea is kind of there, and then obviously after that, they actually do the thing, and I just like the moment where he goes to the guys that had the costumes. It's like, yeah, I'd love to buy one, but I don't have enough money. Can I have the installments and stuff? And he's like, no, dude, we have this second-hand one here. It's really old, like battered up one. And he gives it to him. It's like, yeah, you give it back when you're done. And that was really sweet, for one thing. And then how they communicate on their little, it's not an Etch-a-Sketch, but it's kind of like something I had when I was a kid as well. The magnetic kind of like drawing pad. And that was so cool that they spoke through that, and that was just like lovely, and it was just kind of like, yeah, it just began from there. So and obviously the little scene where he puts the sweets in her little backpack. He didn't know what the deal was, but then it's later on she kind of gives it to the kids. Yeah, that bit as well, and. The scene that got me, even though it wasn't a favourite scene, it was the most emotional scene for me, is that when he's just speaking to her after the assault, and when she comes around and the consciousness comes back and she speaks to her dad and he's there with her and she just says like, yeah, weren't you supposed to be at work? And she's just talking like a normal kid at that point, and it's nothing really about her. It's just like she's just asking about her dad and as if he okay, So it's just really emotional, and it's just like, she's so selfless and so brave, and then that's what breaks him down, because he's like, this is too much for me, because he's kind of before that he's putting on such a brave front, and the wife, the mom, she's kind of like falling apart. So I'm kind of like was torn at that point. It was like, why didn't you let her go in first and stuff? But I get after that, and I can see why he wanted to see how she was, so see if his wife was up for seeing her in the state she was in. So yeah, and that's just that after that, and you can finally see her progression, and she was getting better and better, and I really like the therapist as character as well. What the company shows, like Sunny Days or something. What was it called? And Sunflower or something.
Sunflower,
yeah. And they don't like her at first, but eventually they kind of like they accept her as, and they respect and welcome her in open arms, and eventually. And then, the main emotional scene where they go back to the house, the shop, and it's all covered and festooned with all the messages and the little flyers and the posters and the pictures and the drawings, everything. It's just, and they just see that the people of the town missed them and loved them, and that's it was really, really sweet.
Absolutely.
We've got to limit this down to one favourite scene.
Yeah.
Some of those could be slim pickings now.
You nearly stole my one. My one was the scene just before you said, Ben. It was the scene where he contemplates putting on the balloon and walking up and going, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. Then afterwards, he scares the shit out of the fucking nurse. She saw him and was like, what the fuck are you doing? Yeah, I mean that is definitely like the best of the more comedic. Definitely the more sweeter ones. I'll use one more, then I'll give it back. Then I'll give the a pat a chance. It's definitely the concept of the book of butterflies in the night sky. It's because looking at it and not first trying to understand the concept of what it means. It just shows you. How do you explain it? It shows progress, because obviously, she's still writing on her, as you described it, not really an extra sketch, but she's still writing down stuff, and she's like, okay, that's fine. You're communicating, so we can put the first butterfly on this book. So eventually, when the night sky is full of butterflies, Hope will probably be able to talk. And it's a bit monologue. It's a bit, not monologue. It's a bit montage. Oh yes, I guess it's the best way to say. But it shows you the progress of where she was and to where she got to. To be able to she wasn't there completely, but she was. It showed you progress of that. Things were recovering, and that broke my heart. Just seeing her dad doing the Kokomon stuff, which is I don't know. I also a quick side note on that. Maybe it's because it was on Netflix. Pokemon is actually a thing that's available on Netflix as well, and I was so curious about it. I was like, I mean, obviously he's a monkey, but I didn't quite get what sort of monkey he was. Then I realized reading the backstory on it, he's a sausage wiener monkey, and I'm like, sausage wiener, what does that mean? And there's a whole story behind it.
They live in the fridge, don't they, or something?
Yeah, they're like half animal, half food items, like the bunny rabbit. It's like a boiled egg. But I was like, oh, okay, there's a whole backstory here. We'll get into that, but that's definitely the two more sweeter moments, just seeing how they progress, how she progresses as Hope, trying to speak again, and how the family is trying to and how the community is helping them along the way. And that's it's the sweetest thing. I can't describe it any more than that's just amazing, just seeing their community come together. And it's just oh, that's beautiful. Anyway, before I stole any more scenes, Pat, get in there before we steal any more scenes.
Yeah, Pokemon, gotta catch them all.
Damn it, no, it's not the same.
It's probably the scene where she got her dad to take the suit off. That was probably the nicest scene for me, in amongst all the dread.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, you're hot in there, and he's all sweating his ass off, and it's like, yeah, he is hot in there.
It's the effort that he's gone through just to be able to see her, which speaks volume to him as a parent as well.
Yeah. Especially as before, like you say, is that he was just a bit of a layabout dad, kind of like he cared about was watching TV, doing his thing whenever he felt like.
Actually, that does remind me of another scene I liked.
Yeah.
Where he was watching a rerun of a baseball match and she spoiled the result on him.
Oh.
I was like, I'd be like, don't be having it, grounder for a month.
Oh, yeah, my scene's the same as Pat's. It's that moment. Like you all said, yeah, you can see him sweating, and he's just like nodding because he doesn't want to talk in case he, triggers that trauma. He wants to be able to see her, but not traumatize her. And she's just like, "Come home, Daddy. It's okay." And the fact that the wife didn't know either. Whole time he managed to do it without her realizing it. And she was just like, What are you doing? And it's just like, oh, and then she's wiping his face, like drying him off. That was really nice.
It's such a lovely moment because I think you really get a good sense of how, although it's this horrendous experience, it really forced him to step up in a way that at the beginning of the film, his wife wouldn't even have thought quite possible, because that's when she's saying to the therapist, when the therapist does the home visit, he goes out before she gets up every morning and blah, 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 blah. It kind of, it's almost as if, I mean, just as a side note, because kind of this scene in the hospital when they've moved her and the colostomy bag leaks upset me so much, I didn't want to watch anymore. So then I completely spoiled it for myself so that I could feel comfortable watching it, because I just thought I don't want to be that was horrendous to watch. So I just wanted to make sure there wasn't anything like that. So when this scene happens, when the wife says, he goes out every morning before she's woken up, I knew it was the dad. And because I watched it knowing that, I don't know if that, I don't know if you would have known that if you hadn't have read it or not. But yeah, I had known that because I'd read that part. And I just thought, bless, he's kind of been such a crappy partner and father that it doesn't even occur to her that that's what he's doing. She doesn't have the thought of he's out doing something nice for her, or he's up early so that he can be, take more time out or something so he can be there for us more, because he's been so crappy this whole time. So that's just such a nice moment, because it's like everybody needed to see him being a better dad. So yeah, I like that bit too. It's a good scene.
Yeah,
totally.
Even the first time he shows up, he's asking the head teacher and stuff. I'm sorry, I'll be properly dressed next time.
Yeah, that was great.
It's just see like female teachers or whatnot. It's they can see he's really trying, he's trying his best. And even and another, I think one of my favorite scenes is what someone else mentioned already, is the boy saying how he feels at fault. And
I wish the dad had explicitly said, "It's not your fault." He was comforting to him, but I feel like he actually needed to say,
Yeah, because it wasn't his fault at all.
Yeah,
It's a fact.
it's true. It is.
I think that little boy really needed to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was worried about him at first because he might have lashed out, but at the same time, I'm so pleased to see that he kind of had a level head all the way through. Like he was just a typical schoolboy at first, but then at the same time, he felt deeply and he cared for her and family and things. So it was just very, very wholesome. I like the scene that obviously Camille mentioned that affected me as much as her, that when they move poor Hope from ward to ward in the hospital, that part I was like, I didn't know where this film's going to go after this. The worst part of it would be like, hang on, is she going to die from this? I was like, that was the worst thought that went through my head. It was like, imagine like maybe Hope's going to die from this, and what's the rest of the film? Is this going to be just a vengeance movie with the dad going after the guy? But thankfully, he didn't go into that route because that would have been so grim. Like Hope died because of the parents' negligence, and that would have been like, oh, that would have been as grim as Alec made it out to be. I think.
Well, I mean, like speaking, I mean, I understand why you guys are saying like they shouldn't have moved her, but I don't blame them as much as it seems, because they were escaping from like the reporters, and like that's a bit. I don't know how it is for like. I don't know how it is for like news outlets, I guess, but that was so invasive, right? They literally rushed into like the hospital trying to take pictures of her and see what the situation was like. I was like, she just went through some horrible shit. Could you not like, what do you need to take pictures of the girl who went through some horrible stuff? There was no need for it. And but like I understand why they wanted to keep her away from them lot, because like even like as they were moving, they were like, go that way, go. And like even the mum was like block them with her body, like, no, please leave my daughter alone. I was like, shit, these paparazzo people are just like insane. It's like I don't blame her. I don't blame the parents as much for that, because it's like, can we get some privacy, please? And it's just like, man, it was too much to see. I guess I think in the situation where it happened, it was like, I get why it happened that way, unfortunately, but it's like, again, just the news, I guess the media outlet for them was just like too much.
I get why it happened. I just didn't enjoy it was just a really hard bit to watch.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
As badly as paparazzi ever do. Like, that whole scene when it was, this whole scene when it was unfolding about the press finding out and all of that was really difficult to look at, just because it's like, we know that's how it happens, but the insensitivity of it all, like this 8-year-old has been brutally attacked, and right, we're going to show up at the police station, we're going to get photos, we're going to shout at the dad. Like, had they been at home, there probably would have been like just doorstepping the family whilst like they're getting in basic supplies and stuff like that. Just that insensitivity was really hard. But yeah, the scene of like the whole kind of moving her was the whole thing. I think one of the reasons it was so hard is just because it felt so preventable. But I know obviously they couldn't have known to expect what happened, and they probably wouldn't have like thought to have had kind of a contingency, but the whole thing just felt really preventable and therefore more annoying.
Yeah. Like you say, I think it's something preventable, and obviously it's like I said, their right minds weren't thinking rightly. And to me, obviously, which we'll talk about later with Little Miss Sunshine, is that everyone, as a person and as a parent, will take these situations differently, because everyone has their own different thoughts and opinions of how to work with these things. Because I was really conflicted about everything before that as well. Like, the dad seemed to be more concerned about getting the perpetrator, getting the rapist, more than the well-being of his daughter. I felt at certain points he was vengeance driven at that stage, and he seemed a bit distant and seemed more angry and more like not as supportive and as emotionally there for his wife, his daughter, until he goes to see her, of course. And that when they take her out of the world she's in and move her somewhere else, I feel that they're kind of more like embarrassed to know. I felt, at least in my opinion, that they were more worried about the media getting in the know about what happened, and they were kind of ashamed about what happened. That was my first reading of it. Obviously, it was a bit more nuanced than that, and they were trying to do what was right by what they felt at the time to kind of get her out of harm's way and get away from these paparazzi and stuff. But I think like many of us here wouldn't do that. They'd be more likely to, like me personally, probably be more argumentative, maybe not violent, but I can see some of us here would be more violent in terms towards like the paparazzi. We get in a fist fight with them before we'd even consider moving our daughter. It will happen outside the door of the ward, but it wouldn't get any further than that kind of thing. And it's just like taking them out of the hospital. That's kind of like, that is, to me, it's just like, well, common sense is gone by that point, because one, you're kind of like, she's hooked up to an IV, she's got a colostomy bag, she's got like all these injuries she's recovering on her back and everywhere else. She's got like the stitches, everything. Rupturing any of them is a no-go. You don't want to touch anything because any of that would mess up the healing process and make it uncomfortable and very much painful for her. So maybe if they had, you could just move her bed and wheel her bed out of the ward and down the hall. I could see them doing that, but literally physically taking her up and holding her and taking up the stairs, and that's just, yeah, that was something I couldn't do.
I feel like a nurse or a doctor or somebody been with them that whole time.
Yeah, be like, look, please, nurse, can we move this girl? Can we move my daughter to somewhere else, please, just for like 5 minutes? That's all. Yeah. Just have an outsider, a professional to kind of like oversee it a bit would have helped. But it made it more realistic, the way they acted, because some people would be so kind of like not thinking clearly and just doing something at the spur of the moment. So, yeah. So, regardless, it made the film more compelling and more nerve-wracking. Yeah. So good. It's a film that really gets your emotions to the ninth degree.
Definitely. I was going to add to the little boy again, like you said, how much he cared. Like even when the other kid asked, "Oh, what's in that bag?" or "Why do you carry that bag?" and he's like, "Why do you want to know?"
Yeah.
Like he up to defend, like it's none of your business. Just leave her be. If she wants to, it's the kid version of it. If she wants to say, she will say it herself.
Yeah, that's a very, very, very good point. And that's like the bag of sweets was kind of like the diversion and kind of like the distraction from it. And it's like, oh, that's very smart of the dad to think of that. What's in the bag? Oh, I'm glad you asked.
Yeah. So, because she was worried about the crackling sound of the plastic.
Mm-hmm.
When in real life, afterwards, fortunately, she was able to get a successful surgery so that she could get the bag inside her body, or the artificial kind of thing inside her body. So it no longer had to be outside. Obviously, she still has to deal with that, like official disability. But fortunately, she was able to get that surgery. But yeah, it also, 3 years later, they were successful. I think there was a lot of elements that came together, but they were successful in getting her remuneration, that's probably not the right compensation of 13 million won, because the way the prosecution violated the Witness Act when it comes to victims of sexual crimes. So basically, they shouldn't have had her in the public court answering those questions as they got her, and that was against the law. But they were so hung up on it, get him convicted to the most they could. They didn't follow like the thing, and they were saying how even that traumatized her even more so. So a few years afterwards, they was able to give the courts were able to give her compensation for that. So they didn't give it for other things before, but they did eventually do that. But something else.
I mean, I was about to say, because like I'm guessing like healthcare that's not the UK that has NHS, or in Canada as well, but like they have like it's not free healthcare, so I can't imagine that it would have been cheap to do all that stuff, because like he was, I don't know how to explain, because the dad was like, he was working like a very basic job, and he was just like, you see him pull out the money from his wallet, and like he was just like, can I give it on a credit card and pay it as like installments? And he was like, yeah, sure. And it just shows you like the struggles of like just financially, minimum, like of what they were all going through as well. And I can't imagine that it would have been cheap to go through all of the surgery and stuff. That's why I say that his manager character that was with him is fucking the best human being in the world, to be honest. Like, he gave him, like, in the beginning, before everything happened, when they're eating lunch, he gave him the chicken, and afterwards he was doing his work and helping him. Like, I have some money that I've saved aside that my wife doesn't know about. I'm going to give it to you, okay? And just take the money. You need it. Obviously, you need it, you know. And it's like, just take the money. It's okay. You can pay me back or whenever. And it's like, dude, it's just the best man. He's just the best bro you could ask for. That's awesome.
Yeah.
He's a good friend.
Yeah.
Family in general.
Yeah.
And the friends you need.
Yeah. When the wife, or when the best friend vice PTA chair lady came and gave her the food, and how they made up, and then pretty much very soon after they made up, they did the whole kind of Kokomong kind of thing, and even the police lady like is joining in to really help this child. It's
I think that might be one of the good things about it being in a very small town, that she was able to access the help she needed because there was something available. But also, like, as you say, the police officer being there, and because everybody knows each other, they can bandy around. Like, I think if that happens in a big city when people are often a lot more anonymous, it's easier to fly under the radar. And maybe you might have a friend that visits you in hospital, and like, hopefully you've got tight-knit friends, but like all the things like being pinned on the door or stuck to the door, and the friend going around and cleaning, and just all those kind of little things, that's easier to happen when you're in a small community. And I think that really contributed to the family kind of recovering. So I think that was really nice.
Yeah. And one thing that kind of stood out to me as well was how at different moments when like for example, throwing the shoe at the guy, or when he was banging the chair against the plexiglass. There are multiple moments where like people were obviously openly showing their kind of hate for this man. None of the times were they kind of reprimanded for what they did, which I was glad about. Like, in none of the cases were any of the legal people or guards kind of shouting to tell them to stop or like, what you're doing. They kind of just like
Let it be.
and then escort him out kind of thing. I feel like that kind of showed like they also want justice, but they're kind of trapped in this kind of crappy system. And you could see the police constable detective guy, and you could see him getting really angry as well when he heard the sentence and different stuff. It's like they really wanted justice for the little girl in the family. It's just, yeah. So I'm aware it's getting late and we still got one more film. And probably, if you haven't already, you should probably met the story.
Yeah, I shall. Anyway, yeah, hope it dramatic.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, actually, just talking about the stuff, I was just thinking he was gonna. Unfortunately, I thought he was gonna kill the dude before Hope came in and like saved his like soul and his conscience, because that just reminds me of an unfortunate case that this happened in the States, and the guy was the guy who was charged was going through the airport, and the dad was previously waiting at the airport at the phone booth, and afterwards he knew he was coming. He turned around and shot the guy, and I'm like, man, that's yeah. You were, I don't know how long you were waiting for at the airport at those phone booths to come, but you waited enough for you to shoot the criminal. But the good thing is he got like a sentence, but like he didn't do any jail time. And afterwards he's got his sentence. He got his charges dropped. So I was like, okay, there was a good ending to that as well. I don't remember the name of the case. But like it's once you see it, it's like it's a very famous sort of like image. The picture is very famous. I don't know how to describe it. It's just like, oh yeah, I've seen that. I just didn't know the context. Now I know the context. I go, oh, that's a bit grim, but like understandable. Enjoy your day. So I was like, yeah, I get it.
There was a story like that in Europe where the guy, it was the daughter, dad had like killed the perpetrator, the dad and his best friend or something, or maybe it was the dad's best friend that had done it. The dad's best friend is involved in some way, and he basically like walks free, as he well should. And I think if no denying that that's the guilt against the dad, but in that circumstance, I'm like, I didn't see anything. That would be.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all we need to do. Like, if we have to commit a crime, I would, and I have to say I need to commit a crime. I'll be like, hey guys, stop recording for just like a couple of minutes so I can commit a crime. And once I commit that crime, I usually go, okay, I'm done. Okay, we don't talk about it. Okay, yeah. Okay, everyone gets one. Everyone gets one. Yeah, it'll be fine.
Sounds good to me.
All right. Oh wait, what is it? Oh, hey Corey.
Hey.
Hey.
And anything else before we move on to Little Miss Sunshine?
I hope that's the end of it.
Yes.
Yeah. Little Miss Sunshine. It was a trip. It was like I think, in terms of statements, yeah, let me make my statement. The moment where I was just like, no, this is mad. What is going on? And it's like one TV shows that, like, I don't know, Steve Carell has probably been on it, or some of them have been on or something. It is when the putting the grandpa out the window, and I'm just like, this can't end well. What is going on? And then even when he's telling the funeral people like what happened, and the guy, where is he? And he just like opens the trunk, and it's just like, okay, it's just like nothing. Okay, cool. Nothing else. Oh, okay, cool. It's just how they have to push the car every time. But because when he wanted to go see Branston, Cranston, sorry, bad at names. He couldn't push it by himself, so he just asked the kids, hey, "Can I borrow a moped?" He's like, oh man, yeah, that was a journey.
Couple, please look.
Did you want to say? You're busy. Anyone else's opening statements?
Yeah, I could say I had seen this one a long time ago, and obviously there were some parts that I did not forget one bit. And but overall, like I really didn't remember how enjoyable it was, how like well done it was. I loved the the character building for one, and it just like had such a like an authentic feel to me, and the style of it was just really like quirky, understated. um I really thought it was like fantastically well done. um and the little bits of humor thrown in, like I was cracking up many times. Like, yeah, the push starting the van especially just like offered so much like really funny moments at like the perfectly wrong time, right? So um but yeah, it this I knew that this was going to make for a really interesting conversation because there were a couple parts to the film that were just like really out there. Obviously one of them being the hospital one where they just take his body. like I just like I remember that being part of the story, and I'm just like paying real attention to like how did they end up actually deciding to just like go through with that. It's just wild. Like there were a couple like that was a bit of a stretch for me, but just like in terms of like how they did do it, it was just pretty like wild and comical. And yeah, we'll get more into the pageant part of it, of course. It's just like, yeah, I knew like what they were obviously going for something like really absurd. And then, but what I'll get into later is just like, wow, they were really dancing with the line there. Pun not intended, but um, um, yeah, but overall, like, even though there's some like yeah, I would say pretty controversial parts to the story for me, but overall it doesn't really like it didn't get in the way of how much I enjoyed it overall. I just thought it was just like really well done. But yeah, really interesting talking points to be sure.
I would say, as an opening statement, that Little Miss Sunshine is a comedy of errors. I think it's the best way to describe it, or people have described it that way. And it definitely has its funny bits with the, unfortunately, let's say, icky bits near the end. But generally speaking, it's actually quite an interesting movie. I think myself and Alec didn't like it because we found it both icky, and I guess there's a question of like we understand where the ickiness comes from is because we understand what cuties is, but that's a conversation in itself. But like it's a pretty well way through. There's actually like conversations about, let's say, what was the phrase that I was going to write down? It was like, yeah, that's it. It's like I say generational trauma, but I don't think that's quite the right word. It's more like generational mindsets. There's certain things that the granddad says, and especially teaches to the granddaughter, to Olive herself, and it's like, I see where the miscommunications and like the sort of like thought processes went on. That's not a good idea. And like there are problems to this movie, unfortunately. But generally speaking, it's an interesting pick, and we'll get into that once everyone else has the opening statement.
I kind of agree with Simon that it's a fun movie, but I don't really enjoy it just because I don't like the ending. I don't like the concept in and of itself. Just because I'm so uncomfortable with child beauty pageants, and yeah, it has a few icky moments that just kind of ruin it a bit for me. That even though it's like, oh, this family is clearly very dysfunctional and they've got problems and blah 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 blah, but I'm just like, I still can't quite enjoy it within its context, because of its context, I think. And yeah, the granddad is so inappropriate, and it annoys me because he is clearly so inappropriate, but no one thought to like find out what he was teaching this child.
Yeah.
But then also like the ending bothers me because I'm like, in its context, okay, fine, it's a child doing a striptease to a song called Super Freak, but she isn't any more scantily clad than anybody else. Plus, it starts off with children in swimsuits. Like, it's just icky. I think maybe it's the cognitive dissonance of everybody in that room bothers me so much. And like, as Alec had said, like, it's less, is this appropriate for a child, and more, oh, these other kids are like really polished, they're going to make fun of Olive, and like she's not as good next to them, or kind of that mindset instead. And I'm just like, that wouldn't even be in my top 10 issue. Like, if you, I don't know, I'm just like, I'd be more concerned about the appropriateness of the context, and then like our really sweet, innocent, down-to-earth girl is going in here just having fun, versus these like Kris Jenner wannabe stage mums. I don't know. I just don't like it for that reason. I think it really annoys me. That's mine.
The thing about that pageant is, like, when you said about the kids in swimsuits, worst bit about it is they've got to stand in front of like middle-aged judges being judged for how they look.
Yeah, it's just, as a concept,
I'm
gross.
I'm probably on the other side of the fence, because I actually quite like the ending. Because I like Rob said, it felt much more of like a showing your middle finger to the sort of establishment kind of.
I like the dancing at the end of it. I like that particular.
That was great.
Yeah.
But it's everything else that I dislike.
See, I can imagine Steve Carell's character and Paul Dano's character as me and John just jumping in to try and just join in. And I'm not making Steve Carell John just because he's depressed. He just gave John vibes.
If anything, he's more like Paul Dano, just like silent and never speaking, but then he comes out.
The thing is, Paul Dano reminds me of myself when I got news that I was diabetic. When he
Okay.
found out he was colourblind, he didn't deal with it very well. Neither did I. Mind you, I found out sort of crossing a road, and you get thoughts in your head. Where he found out in a car, and they just got his dad to pull over. So it's a completely different scenario. I don't mean to bring it down dark again after getting through that dark film, but there is sort of a similarity, I suppose, in the situation that I saw between ourselves. But that end bit was really funny, and also like I said earlier, I did quite like oh shit, what's his name again? The granddad,
Alan Arkin.
Alan Arkin. He is extremely inappropriate, but where I tend to watch films generally based on like the entertainment purpose, and then look at sort of maybe real life connotations and realism afterwards. I got great entertainment value from him while he was on screen. Even when he died, he was making me laugh. The fact that we're passing him out the window. It was he was definitely my favourite character, which is probably the controversial part of this for me.
Yeah. I think Ben, is it your
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really interesting one. I like the film. I don't love, but I really admire. And I was thinking, it's kind of like it's a Wes Anderson movie that Wes didn't make, in my opinion. It has that quirkiness with a lot of its characters and how they are written. Like we're saying that every single character in this film is flawed, but despite that, all their hearts are in the right place. And kind of like with Hope, everyone goes on the journey and becomes a better person at the end of it, I feel. And it's kind of like it's like one of those things where they all kind of like don't want to be where they are. But the way the story goes, they're kind of forced into one place and they have to deal with it. But it's because of the love of Olive, the daughter, the sister, the granddaughter. She is the one that makes them all come together as a family unit and become better because of it. And that is kind of like the main theme of it all. And yeah, and you can see as it started, like you said before, that the dad is a bit of a dickhead at first. To be fair, all he cares about is his career and being a loser. That's the worst thing in the world. And the granddad is just a bit of a very inappropriate, like, what did you say? He's a boomer? I guess he is in the sense. Maybe not. But he's kind of like of a generation that's far, far beyond and what even in the early 2000s is kind of still a bit wrong. He's not really of the time, and the mum is just trying to hold it all together with like her brother committing suicide, and he's just on his last legs as well. And her son is just literally, he's the epitome of a emo, basically. He's just kind of like a typical teenager, just showing off, being aggressive and anti everything. It's just like, he's the worst kind of kid you'd want to have as a parent. And it's kind of like, yeah, sure, the pageantry thing is something that most people in this day and age would second guess, well, not second guess, kind of like would question quite significantly. But at the beginning of the film, to me, it's quite clear that none of them really care or pay much attention to what her interests are, except for the grandfather. And everyone's like, Olive can do what she wants to do. If she wants to do pageantry, blah, blah, blah. They're not really thinking about the connotations of what it is and what she has to do. And the granddad's the only one that's encouraging it. And sure, it's problematic, but it's still Olive's interest. And he's the only one that seems to be listening to her when everyone in the family just is not. Everyone's ignoring her. And it's like, actually, she's won this competition. She's won the trip to across the country. Do we do this or not? And it's like, if we don't do it, we're going to break her heart. And so they kind of have to like, okay, let's deal with this now. Let's deal with it. And it's kind of like, it's more like the journey rather than the destination. It's one of those metaphors. It's like the important thing is the journey of how the family become the family unit that they should be by the end of it. It's kind of like, yeah, it's a pageant. It's very wrong by today's standards, and they're very questionable with very strange practices and stuff like that. And sure, the grandfather probably wasn't really thinking it through because he's of the generation that doesn't see an issue with it. And it's only when they're there, it's kind of like, yeah, he was just there just to take the piss out of it. And that's Olive's plan, or his plan, and Olive's plan was just to kind of like, just put a big finger up against it all. And what I found was funny is that it isn't that far from what they were doing anyway. It's not far removed at all. And yet somehow the judges and the audiences are so like distraught and offended by what they do, when it's kind of like, hang on, it's generally just kind of like making it a bit more obvious that this is stupid. It's only kind of like 1% difference, and yet they're clutching their pearls and just saying, oh my God, this is a sin. Worst thing in the world. This is like against God. This is against Christ. This is not American. And it's like, and what it was before was okay. And it's like, okay, so, and none of them are, and it was like, they're all for Olive at that point and going with her, just going up on stage, like Pat said, just to take the piss out of it all. Like, yeah, this is stupid. Why are we here doing this? It doesn't make any sense. But it's still Olive's dream to do it. And she came out of it feeling satisfied, despite losing, despite being disqualified. And it still kind of was, the point of the film works for me, despite it having the ickiness of it. It still was like, look, the family became the family they were destined to become. So it kind of like goes full circle. They go through all this crap, and then eventually get out of it. And it's like, yeah, we love each other. We love Olive. Every one of us has issues, but we kind of come out of it thinking better about ourselves, and they go home happy. Kind of like they're not losers at that point. They came back winners despite everything. So it's fun.
Just one thing on this, like, America loves their pageantry stuff, but I don't know how comfortable I'd be as a parent having a child like that on stage in a country where you've got a lot of paedophiles. Like, just having like, yeah, it just doesn't. It makes you feel uncomfortable.
I mean, that's kind of the point why everyone is saying it's creepy in itself. Like, pageants themselves are kind of like, I mean, like, they have a certain ickiness to themselves. But it's a bit different because I think, as I told you guys before, and when we had this chat, like, pageants nowadays, it's not as bad because of Miss Congeniality, where you had that sort of like girl power movie. And it's like, all right, it's not too bad, but it's still, even, yeah, I mean, like, even now, looking back on it, it's like, oh, it's still kind of a bit odd, but they've changed it where, it's, girl powery, but it's kind of like still looking at that movie compared to the types of pageants in this movie, where it's just like, oh, but they're young girls. So it's a question of like, but the parents see this, and heck, even Olive sees this, where right at the beginning of the movie, where, she dreams of like having like that fame and glamour and like what's the word? Admiration of like the crowd. So I can see like the mindset where it starts, like even as you see it in the characters. Yeah. But unfortunately, because they started way too young, that's the problem. Because it's a question of like, oh yeah, it's like, you're literally stepping up on a stage on a literal pedestal and being like honored for your for your looks essentially, and like it's like, oh, awkward. That's like, yeah, it's I don't know. I mean, that's what I mean. They have to start. I guess like they start at a certain age, but like 7 is I mean, it's way too young.
Well,
Yeah,
way
that's-
too early.
Yeah.
And that's what's so stupid about the whole thing is that it's fine, but then suddenly they put a more obvious in-your-face song, and she just wears a certain different outfit. It's suddenly the worst thing for these people. So it's kind of like, yeah, let's just turn the dial just slightly to the right a little bit, and then suddenly it's the worst thing in the world. And it's kind of like they didn't need to do much for it to actually kind of make it offensive for the judges and the audience. It's kind of like the line is clearly there, and it's like, why didn't you see it? Why doesn't the American people feel that this line isn't further before that? And it's bonkers, really. It's bonkers that they're okay with it, and this is generational thing where it's just a kind of a routine.
It feels like there's a political line in that sort of scene as well, whereas that family seems to represent in a modern day a sort of a left side kind of like
Working class, definitely.
yeah, a working class aspect to it where you're supportive of each other. You're not singling people out because of what they look or where they've come from. Whereas the other side are like, we have our own sort of strict way of being, and anyone else that comes into our domain will vilify them, kind of thing.
There's definitely oh, sorry, go on.
Yeah, that was basically the crux of it.
As I agree that there's definitely kind of, and it's political in that the way that class divides the political, and the upper class tends to hold the power and decide what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. In this family, the class is less implied until kind of it's just so obvious that Olive is not as kind of, you know, she doesn't have the same makeup, she hasn't got the same hair, she hasn't been like, especially for pageants of this sort, when the girls look like that, these are probably kids that have been in pageants since they were literally babies and have been made up that way since they were toddlers. Like it runs a lot further back than just like 7-8-year-olds. It's like Toddlers and Tiaras was, I watched it, I was shocked that it was literally Toddlers and Tiaras, like it's genuinely kids in nappies.
Yeah, and those ones in the film were pageant girls who, and they also performed the same things they performed in real life,
which is mad. But actually for the baby ones, it is musical. So there's this sense of like, this is what we deem acceptable, and you are clearly different to us. We think you're lesser than us, which I think is what the men were trying to express. But because I think it just seemed like there would be more, they expressed it more in a way that was like down on Olive and her abilities than it was, we're not the sort of people that are going to be appreciated here. Mm-hmm. But it was a woman winning the contest said, get that ragamuffin off stage. I think that's the most obvious moment of, okay, this is a class thing, because had she come up there and done it to some other song that you deemed acceptable and done something similar, then it would have been a different conversation. But you don't approve. It was obvious from when they walked in the door that you don't approve of this family. You don't approve of this little girl with her big massive glasses, with her long hair, but it's a bit on the straggly side. It's not, blow dried and curled to the whatever.
And they were late. They were not punctual.
4 minutes late.
Yes, the worst of the worst, aren't they?
Yeah.
Damn them people.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna try to explain my whole read on the pageant scene. And also a thought that occurred to me as well while you guys were talking is that the family really dropped the ball on keeping tabs on what Olive was getting into with her grandfather. Because they all knew exactly what kind of guy the grandpa was. He got kicked out of his retirement home for doing heroin, basically, right? Is what it was. And so like they're just like clearly up until we see the point in the movie, they're just letting them do their thing and prepare the act and everything and not having a clue what she was going to be doing up there. That's a
Yeah.
huge problem, and it kind of doesn't jive very well with the fact like the mom and basically the whole family is willing to just drop everything and drive Olive over there. Like clearly they care about her, but obviously inconsistently so. And yeah, so when it comes to the pageant scene, when they're finally seeing um like I think that they really had no idea what Olive was about to do. And I think what I'm seeing their reaction is like kind of like shock and just like not knowing what to do with the situation. And
Yeah.
also where it gets confusing is it is very true. Like what Olive was doing, like disturbingly enough, was not a huge stretch from what all the other little girls were doing and dressing like. Like that pageant entirely in itself was very much crossing a line in terms of just like, making up children to be like so adult. Like that's really inappropriate in my opinion and many all of us here, I'm sure. And so I think that was an interesting comment that the movie was making. Even though like obviously I think the our response was supposed to be like shock at what Olive was doing because it did definitely, even though it wasn't that diff- different from what all the other girls were doing, it definitely took it up a notch. Okay, she was like, I would call that like that's definitely like removing clothes as part of the act is just really
Yeah.
tricky territory. And like I think when they started off like she like smacking her butt. Like, I don't even want to go into all the details. It was just like the purpose of that scene was clearly to be outrageous. And it's just like really like, wow, what a like provoking um scene. And I don't know if anybody noticed, but like the reactions of everybody that was watching was completely mixed because yes, it wasn't a huge stretch. Did you see like the judges? Obviously, the two women judges on the either end were just like outraged. But the middle, Miss California, she was like vibing along. She's like, "Ew, this is awesome!" Like,
Yeah.
and that's not surprising because like the whole idea of this pageantry stuff for such young children is really just like questionable is how I would put it, I guess. And and so yeah, it was just like really freaking awkward to watch but I just like really, even though it was like horrifying to kind of experience and awkward and uncomfortable, I think what the movie was trying to do was just like shine a light like, hey, like this is and I was really surprised to hear like Emmanuel, you say that those were actually really pageant girls that did that in like their families put them in this movie. In my opinion, this movie was kind of shining a light on how this like strange and inappropriate these pageants are.
You broke up
Oh,
when you
Yeah.
said really pageant girls. Can you go from there again?
oh, sure, yeah. So the movie, I was just shocked to hear that those girls were actually real life pageant girls, and that their families agreed to let them be in this movie because, in my opinion, this movie was shining a negative light on the whole thing. You see the family, you see the family look at all what everything is happening, and they're just like they feel like they've stepped onto another planet, right? And so I'm just shocked that those were real life pageant people. But yeah, so like obviously I see why like there's like the ending scene, like, and I also question just like talking about like child actors, like Abigail was doing that. Like it's just like what did her parents think letting her act that out? It's just like, anyway. So how it all played out, like I kind of think it's a little unrealistic in how the family ended up like letting her continue that dance because it was very, like, I'm gonna say, like, it was very sexualized to me, like, so that I have a bit of an issue with, but like it kind of gets a little bit smoothed over for me, and how it does end up being like them all coming up to the stage and joining Olive and standing with her and supporting her. And yeah, they're all just on there doing their thing, not giving a crap about what everybody thinks, just like living their best life, just like supporting all. But honestly, I'm happy about in the end, like they're banned from taking part in pageants in California for life, and like everyone's completely okay with that. I'm like, good.
Yep.
that story is closed. But yeah, sorry, I've been going on very long, but like I still, it does bother me quite a bit that they had no idea what Olive was getting up to with that really offensive, irresponsible grandfather. But
Yeah. It's like, it's not just pageants as well in America. It's also, so like the stuff linked to things similar to Dance Moms, like the competitions a lot of young girls similar age will go to, and the routines and subject matters and all sorts of stuff they get them to dance. Like, not all of them, but there's quite a few that are very inappropriate for the age and all that stuff. And it's just like, why is this a thing? Why does this happen? Like you said, what Olive did was not like too far from, but it was kind of, it was crazy, but in a comedic way, I guess, but still, yeah, not good. But you have young dancers in groups who are made to dance things that are very close to that, or on topics that are very inappropriate for the age. It's just like, yeah, what, why America? Just why?
America has this like weird dichotomy where you can't decide what side of the fence it's on. Like, I feel like there's so much like hypersexualization of young girls. Like, every single one of those girls that's like to like compete in a pageant, it's so like beauty driven, and they're dressed up like they're full adult women, full face of makeup, and there's a lot of it. And then like there's all these kind of different pockets in American society, or like in a young American girl's life where she is more sexualized, like outfits for prom and the importance of getting a date for the dance on Friday night. Like, that's such a trope in like teen movies. And then at the same time, it's a culture that completely demonizes sex and sexual women. And it's a bit like, but these girls have grown up, especially the ones that are in like pageants or do certain types of dance or whatever. Their beauty and their bodies are literally, you've raised these kids kind of teaching them that this is all they've got to offer the world. And suddenly when they are like 21-year-olds, then it's like a problem when they're like in Miami on spring break, continuing to dance and party. And I'm just like, this is so stupid.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah.
And
This is this is something that I've always felt that American culture influences a lot of what happens here as well. Because you see a lot of young girls. I don't know what it's like in everyone else's parts, but like I can walk down a road down Tilbury and there be girls that are like dressed up in really skimpy outfits, and I'm like, you're like 6 years old, put on some proper clothes. Like, you just, so in Tilbury we have something that's been nicknamed Rape Alley, and I walk past it every day. Yeah, I know it's quite dark. I'm bringing an awful lot of darkness today. I'm sorry.
It's Hope 2.0.
But yeah, like there's been a handful of women that I've heard about that have been raped down this alley. And then you've got like kids that are walking up and down this road, like during the day, thankfully, but I don't know if these crimes are taking place during the day or not. But wearing things that I think as a parent, I'd be like, that's quite inappropriate to wear at that age. And I do think it is a consequence of part of an American culture, because like Britain and America are quite closely knit. Like, neither country or anyone that I refer to as like a flag shagger want to admit that they're like here. Oh, we're like America, or America's like here. But the cultures are intertwined, and things that happen in either, you will see a spill over in the other, which is, it's quite troubling. Like, I think if I had a little girl, I'd that's the sort of thing that I wouldn't tolerate as a parent at such a young age, because I think it's quite a risky thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Emmanuel, you asked like, why America? Why is this such a big thing? And like at what point in the movie, Dwayne like hit the nail on the head. Like, he said life is a beauty contest. No matter where you are, appearance, like, this is like, actually, this is I haven't fully scored the film yet, but just like this like topic that's touched on, like the whole idea of like appearance is just king, like that's how our society is. And
Yeah.
we reward and admire like what, people who are like at the top end of like beauty standards or whatever. And it's got like with this beauty pageant stuff, it's gotten to the point where it's just like literally an organized way to just like rank people and reward people for their appearance. And it's just like really twisted, obviously, when you think about it, but it's just been like going on so long, and it just like grew into this monster. And I would hope that it started off with just adults, and then eventually people just got so conditioned to thinking it was normal that eventually then children were brought in, which is obviously really even more problematic than just the adult ones. But just like, I'm just like not surprised that it still is a thing, because I just know that you've heard the whole, I don't know if anybody's heard the whole concept of like pretty privilege too. Like, you have an easier way through life if you're conventionally attractive and whatnot. So it's just like, and also like these pageants, I'm pretty sure, I might be mistaken, but there's like cash prizes for these pageants, right? And so just like, I have to imagine that like if parents see that they have like a conventionally attractive child, quote unquote, and maybe they'd want to cash in on that, and as well as at the same have this like pride of like their beautiful child.
Yeah.
So
You're right. It's a lot of ego speaking there, and it's a lot of like, obviously, the way America is as a country, and the worst parts of it are all kind of driven by those things you mentioned, and it's kind of like it's all monetary reasons and the looks and everything like that. It's all so problematic. At least in my opinion, at least with this film, the family set out for none of those things. They didn't want to do it for the money. They didn't want to do it just because they think Olive's more beautiful than anyone else. They just wanted to do it because Olive wanted to do it. And that's the most important to ever compete in any kind of thing, whether it's like a pageant, as bad as it is, or something more fulfilling like the Olympics or a marathon or something, or any kind of competition you could think of. It's the wanting to take part because you feel like compelled, inspired, and like it's something that you believe in heart and soul. It's not doing it for any other reason. It's not for winning, not just saying that I've won, I'm better than everyone else. It's just because I want to do with this. I think I'm good enough, and I want to be involved in this. And that's kind of the message I got. Despite the horrible toxicity of the pageantry thing, we all can agree with being problematic and horrible. At least in my opinion, the family, they were never that wasn't their thing. That was kind of like a byproduct of being involved with them. And it's kind of like, yes, yeah, there's a problem, but
It's funny how toxic all these things are. Like even like when I was growing up, like playing football and going to different clubs and getting trials at Leyton Orient and stuff. Like there was a lot of toxicity within my group there. And you read stuff about other people that did different clubs, whether it be a sport related thing, a dance or pageantry, as it's shown in this. This just seems to be like unnecessary toxicity, where you should just be there sort of supporting the young people involved.
Yeah.
Whether it's an acceptable thing to be doing for like 8-year-old girls or not, that I think they're making it too much of a competition, and I think that's something. Yeah, like at such a young age, I don't think everything should be a competition. It just should allow them to do what they want because they enjoy doing it, rather than making it very cutthroat, which is seen quite a bit until the funny dance at the end.
I mean, like that's kind of like where, like the rest, well, especially her dad, or the concept of like the generational trauma, I was going to say, it comes in because, you know, in Olive's mind, she wants to do it, but she needs to win. Because if I don't win, I'm the loser, right? That's literally what her dad's, and that's kind of like what which was, without making it sound too boomerish, what you've said was essentially, and you want to have some participation trophies as well, and like, I don't want to be that person, obviously, but it's like, I understand that competition is, well, no, a healthy competition is good, but with these fucking things, it's just like, man, it's too much, right? And it's like, so, and because it's not the best sort of competition anyway, it makes it worse. Which actually, because watching all of this, I'm thinking just about the end bit. Have you guys watched like the Jackass film Bad Granddad or Grandpa?
Yeah.
And you know the scene right at the end, right? You know the exact same scene right at the end where he has a little boy dress up as a girl for the pageant, and he does the striptease thing, and it's like, that just made me think, oh, that's pretty much well, I mean, I say pretty much, that's kind of what Olive did. Then after you see all the like judges with like their shocked faces, and I'm like, everyone who watched Bad Grandpa agrees, oh yeah, this is all creepy. But then when they watch this and they're like, oh, I don't know, maybe it's not so bad, but like, no, it's all pretty bad. But it's just like seeing like the context. If we like reach it, like a max out to 11, then you go, oh right, yeah, it's pretty bad.
But yeah, going back to the competitive bit, like I think it's okay to be competitive, but it's more like friendly competitive. Like the cutthroat nature, I don't think is necessary at such a young age. Like you're teaching them like adult habits when they should be enjoying the best years of their life. Like I just go back to like my experience. Like I just used to love running around a football field, like kicking the ball about. And then once you bring like a real cutthroat nature to it, I think you just stop enjoying it. And I think that happens to a lot of kids. Like in general, even like you take out the kids in movies or TV shows, like if you add the competitive nature to their life, I think they tend to veer to something else.
One of the problems with anything that kind of brings either potentially fame or glory or praise and being competitive in that, when it's kids, a lot of the times it's parents living with like their children. In one way or another, it's parents trying to either get their kids to do what they did. Like going back to toddlers and tiaras, there were a lot of parents there who were like, oh yeah, I was a beauty queen too, and my 6-month-old, and she's made up ready for her first beauty competition. Or it's like people who never got so far, but they want their kids to do it. And it happens a lot in like sport and in music when there's like a parent who never quite made it in that thing. So like they try and push their kid toward it.
Yeah, they want to live their life through their kid.
Oh,
Sorry?
you're right.
Yeah. This is an interesting topic because I was thinking like myself as an adult now and how I want to view competition when I take part, if I take part, is that competition can be fun, you know, trying to win, trying your hardest. But what matters to me most is just like the outcome. Like if I don't win, if I don't come out on the top, I don't want to be like crushed and feel like I have no worth if I'm just like not number one or number two, number three. And like if I were to be on the top, I wouldn't want anybody else that ranked below me to feel like crap after, you know? So it's like I think it's fun to go for try really hard and try to achieve something, but like in the end of the day, I think what's most in the sense of personal values is like more just like putting the effort in and having fun at what you're doing, and like and if it's something you love, like enjoying it. You know, I think those for me are just like what competitions can bring out in people is just like, you know, trying really hard at something and doing something they love. So it's like, and so like I know like, you know, when it comes to kids, like they're so impressionable and like they can be really insecure, of course, like everything is just so like unknown to them. And so just like I really wouldn't want a little kid to feel like if they don't win, they're nothing, you know? I was really afraid I really had a bad impression of what was it, Richard, the dad's name?
Yeah.
When he was really kind of just like indoctrinating his little impressionable kid, like you only go into this if you're gonna win. And then she like eventually like started crying to her grandpa, like, what if I don't win? I don't want to be a loser. Like that was just like so upsetting to see. So like
Yeah.
I'm really glad the dad kind of came around in the end, but that was like, probably
He was probably the most problematic for me, like because like I was saying right at the beginning of the call, he just spent like a good chunk of the first half of the movie calling Steve Carell's character a loser. Now, this is someone who's in deep depression and has tried to kill himself, and all you're doing is ramping up the pressure on him by calling him a loser. It's like only losers want to check out of their life early, and then obviously it's in front of his daughter, so she's going to be quite impressionable. And then when they decided they were going to take this trip, and he was like, we're only going if you're going to win. And the first thing she does is look at Steve Carell. And it's like, I feel like this guy is putting too much pressure on people. I get it. It's his way of trying to get people, I suppose, to have the right mindset, but it's still going the wrong way about it. I think you've got to treat everyone by their mindset. Like you don't go up to a morbidly depressed person and say you're a loser, sort yourself out, because that just doesn't end well.
Yeah. And we also see like as frustrating as him as a character was, like it gave good chance to see how the family like reacted to that. Like they obviously were not on board with like his ideology. And like also, you know, remember the restaurant scene where she wanted to have ice cream, and that was tough to watch too. Like him literally like maybe almost like giving her like body dysmorphia or like an eating disorder. Like I could see that, like him planting the seeds for that. But all the other family was just like, it's okay, you could eat that if you want. And and in the competition too, like when the mom was helping Olive get ready, she saw how everybody else looked, but she wasn't trying like to make her look like everybody else. She was just like letting Olive like be herself and keep her hair as it was and all that stuff. So yeah.
I think the best part of that pageant, going back to the ice cream thing, is when she spoke to was it Miss California? And she's like, yeah, I eat ice cream all the time. I think that was kind of a nice retort to her dad.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
I eat Cherry Garcia chocolate. I found it funny when she said, I was slightly confused. I think it's a sorbet. It's like
Frozen yogurt.
frozen yogurt.
Yeah.
I was like, I mean, I don't think it is, but who cares? It's still funny that you said you love ice cream. That's what matters.
Frozen dairy product.
Yeah.
This is back in the days of Dairy Queen before it all got shut down.
I had Dairy Queen in the airport. I think, which airport were we in? I had Dairy Queen there.
In the Maldives.
Yeah, in the Maldives. It's going from from Sri Lanka to Maldives. Oh, no.
They still have it.
Oh,
Yeah. Sorry? What'd you say?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Oh, I was like, they still have it. I thought they closed it all down.
I mean, it was 2 years ago, but yeah, in the...
last year.
Oh, sorry. That's when we got married. 1 year ago, so we went to because we had 2 honeymoons. Sorry. Yes.
You had a mini moon.
A mini moon and a mega moon. But last year when we was in the Maldives, that airport. Okay. There was a Dairy Queen there, and I had Dairy Queen. It's like, oh, nice. I don't think I ever had them while in America.
Yeah, like the few times when I was visiting when I was younger, that was probably one of my favourite places.
Wait,
When you talking about it being shut down, do you not have them there anymore?
Oh, we've never had them in England, but they used to be all over America.
Well, we still have them down here.
Unless it was just specific ones, but where I was staying in California, they closed that down. And I'd heard that they were either shutting the chain down or they were just shutting a bunch of them down. They probably just shut a bunch of them down.
Wait, is Dairy Queen the one where they do the blizzards and they tip the ice cream upside down, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was thinking, why does that sound so familiar? Yeah, okay. I've always wanted to try that to see how good that ice cream is. But if they're shut down, I was like, oh, no.
Basically,
Yeah.
Dairy Queen and Denny's are probably 2 of my favourite places in America.
Okay, yeah,
Food
but like Denny's is great. As cool as Denny's is, like Denny's in. Well, let me say this: I was in Florida for a while, right? Denny's in Florida is a different business. Well, that's all I'm gonna say. Denny's in Florida is entertainment.
Is it like El Polo's chicken?
Well, I mean, like how
Or
to
Los
explain
Polos.
it? Well, it's like, I mean, like I've never. I mean, I've been drunk. I went to Denny's at like, I don't know, let's say 3 a.m. and went get like a stack of pancakes or something. I've never seen so many people so calm while there's a punch up going around. That's like there's like Denny's is like wow, shit, there's so much violence happening, and you see like the 2 older couples just like sitting at a booth going, what do you mean? This is like a regular Tuesday for us. I was like, oh,
that's just America.
You're just too conditioned to British life.
Yeah, but it's like, I mean, like it's like it's just I didn't fully expect to see a punch up while I'm eating pancakes. It's like, oh, cool, it's food and a show. That's amazing. Yeah, but like Denny's is peak. Denny's definitely, especially when you're drunk as well, is absolutely great.
I hear Florida is like of the American states. I hear that Florida in particular is just known for just like out of this world stuff.
Florida, it's just the iceberg.
Already.
Oh, but when you talk about that, Simon, it reminds me of 2 things. Like, "This Is America" by Childish Gambino song,
Yeah, this is America.
but also like that scene in Ghost where she's just shouting and having an argument with the like people upstairs. What are you doing, lady? I was just like, yeah, that's just normal. That's
That's New York.
yeah. But there's a lot of places that aren't too dissimilar. And like Corey said, Florida is a different breed. There's just stuff that's just
The thing is, Florida, I think the reason why Florida has become so notorious is something to do with how you're allowed to report things there. So there's just, I can't remember what it was specifically, but it basically means that more news comes out of Florida specifically compared to other states that kind of have more restrictions on what outside places can hear about. I think it's like it's a sampling error more than anything else. I think Americans in general are just wild. This one.
Yeah, that is the mad thing. When I was watching Little Miss Sunshine, what I found bizarre and kind of like what it points to how bizarre America is how state law works. Like, obviously, Grandpa died crossing Albuquerque to New Mexico, or somewhere around there. He died there. But yeah, and then they eventually arrived at their location, but they couldn't technically do anything because of the law stating that he was like. It was all I can't explain it because I was like confused by what I was seeing, because when they took his body to the coroner, or at least told them about it and the fact that he's dead, like, and they took him to the hospital, and she said, "Oh, you can't do this and that. You have to stay here and do this." And there's like, "No, but we need to go to Florida. We need to do the pageant." And said, "No, you have to stay here and sign all these things. It's going to take time." And it's like, it didn't happen here, but it's on the way. And it's like, we're not even from here. And it's like so confusing. So the fact that they took his body out and shoved him in the back of the car, I get the logic of that. Despite it being absurd, it's just like state law in America is just like, if, like, for us here, like if someone died in a different county, there'll be no issue. We'd just be like, it's part of the United Kingdom. It's just things will be able to be done easily. But state law in the States is just, it's like another country. It's like the jurisdictions are so mental. It's like, I can't get my head around it.
Unfortunately, yeah. Sorry. Like you said, they are very much like different countries and operate like different countries. And in the same vein, like Texas is bigger than the UK.
Yeah. I can understand why it is another country, really.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's a lot of kind of, even though it seems crazy, it's not just seems crazy, it's just crazy seeing them do that. I feel like there are people in America who would actually attempt to do the same thing in the same situation, because they would be like, we can't afford that transport or whatever y'all were talking about to get him back home. We just want him to be buried back home.
Yeah.
So, but they're just like, no, but this state law, he's here. We have to do this. No, we have to have these papers and blah, 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 blah. Which I get it in one aspect.
The jurisdiction, yeah.
But yeah, it's mad. It's just like how the drinking age and so many other things, like drinking and driving. No, that's a problem. But
marriage.
The drinking age. Oh yeah, the marriage age as well.
Yeah, and the like pro-life, pro-choice thing.
It is different, and there's no like unilateral. Like, at least with the drinking, the minimum age is now 18. It didn't used to always be like that. Like when it comes to like drinking and driving. But obviously there were so many deaths because of it that caused lots of problems. But there's still many states where the marriage age is crazy young. And many problems because of that. It's just a cobble of so much mess.
I'm curious to know how, I don't know if you know, in this specific context, if someone dies, Corey, but like how it works in Canada with the different provinces, because Canada is bigger than America, but it doesn't seem, well, I think it's bigger than America, but it doesn't seem to be as nonsensical in how it's run from place to place quite the same way.
I we have so many similarities with the states, honestly. But since like there are a few there has to be like a few differences, just because like yeah, like land wise we're massive, but like population density is like way less. It blew my
Yeah.
mind to learn the difference between Canada population density and the states. Like it's just bonkers. And in terms of just like we do have different like age requirements just off the top of my head across the provinces. You know, this like drinking age in the province next to me is 18, but our province is 19. It's so like stuff like that. There are differences. And but in terms of just like, you know, moving a body across province lines, like I'm sure there's like some like red tape, but I would like this is gonna like the states are known for just like, you know, in terms of like healthcare, how much you have to pay for like every little thing down there. And so
Yeah.
I would say that like it's probably, you know, not as outrageous for us to do something like that. We wouldn't have to like pay out our butts, like, you know. So that's one significant difference that I appreciate.
Yeah, I don't know. The only kind of, I said, nonsensical thing in Canada I know about is when it comes to buying cars in different provinces or certain provinces. There's moving as well, but I don't know about the moving as much. But like, let's say you buy a car in Quebec, but you live like, I mean, you wouldn't travel from Quebec to Toronto, but somewhere in the middle, or let's say just say Saskatchewan, whatever. The problem of getting your registration done in a different province compared to where it was done in Quebec, they'll be like, oh no, but you have to fax this and you have to send this and this paperwork and this paperwork. You saw me there. I bought the car, but it's not sure. And it's like you have to like have them say, oh yeah, we authorize that. Yeah, you did buy the car here in Quebec, so that your province over here can give you the registration. But then the registration, where the province you're in is like, oh, but we can't verify this. Why? It's French. Because that's the name of the. It's like, no, this is a real story, not to me, but like someone's having.
This is why he's focused on Quebec, because the guy, does he live in?
Nah, the guy lives like probably not too far from Saskatchewan, like in like a mid province. That's one is not in the middle properly, but in a middle province within Canada. Yeah, he bought it in Quebec, and it's just like, why is it this hard to get this? I'm having to go up levels and levels and levels just for them to approve this, so I can buy my freaking car.
Yeah, I remember.
It didn't sound really dodgy. It's just I want to drive my car from here to here. That's it.
In Canada, my auntie had moved from Vancouver to Oakville, so that's like outside of Toronto. And I remember going with her to get some admin done about her car, like changing the license plates and stuff. And I just remember being I can't remember what it was, but at
The DMV?
some building or other for about 5 hours. Like, this is the day 2 of me being in Canada on my summer holidays, and I spent 5 hours just like wandering around, like going into different shops, going back into the like office that she was in. Nope, she's still not done. Okay, I'm going to wander around again. To do with her changing things with her car. Then afterwards, she was like, I should have just bought a new car. I think she has to change her license there as well. Maybe she was doing more than one thing.
Yeah, the license isn't as bad though.
I just remember it took hours, whatever was going on.
Yeah,
And then
that's so dumb.
all of that. She only stayed in Ontario for a few years. They moved back to Vancouver now.
Yeah,
There are other people.
we all have our individual provincial governments. Yeah, it's different. Driving licensing and yeah, it is different.
So funny.
But Quebec in particular, they're a different story compared to like and French is like is a national language of like all of Canada, but it obviously mostly spoken in Quebec, and yeah, they're a bit more set apart than all the other provinces for sure.
Yeah. Oh, man. Great stories though. But yeah, more of the story. If that happens to you, Corey, just buy a new car. Don't bother with it. It's not worth the hassle.
or train some mooses and just ride on those. Though from what some people train mooses to ride. I don't know. Oh no, I think moose travel will probably be faster than you trying to go to the DMV to switch your license plate. Yeah, that would work.
Just before we move off this topic, Corey, is there still like a part of like two parts of Canada that's basically only really connected by one main kind of highway road kind of thing?
I think Melissa was saying, you spoke to Melissa about this and she said that was still a thing.
Yeah. I was just like, wait, how is that? If that one major road, something happens to it, literally no one can get from that part of Canada to the other. Like this.
Really? I don't do a lot of I've only ever been to the one province next door to me and I haven't been farther east than that. So just like I didn't know that. Like would that be what Highway 1 are you talking about?
I'll check it and come back to it. But
yeah, was it that one? The one that we saw, the bridge? If that bridge blows up, is that like a game over?
Then you just train seals instead, and we just ride those into the water. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
So apparently there's a few. There's I don't know which one it is, but there's the Yukon and Alaska Highway. This is probably a bad example. The Dempster Highway, the Trans-Labrador Highway, James Bay Road, but that's Quebec, in northern Manitoba. And apparently all those places are connected by one highway, one main road.
So if you're Bane and decided to blow it up, you'd cripple Canada.
Why not make other ways?
Yeah.
That's like, yeah, that's wild to me because Canada's such a big country. It's like a lot of land to cover. That's crazy to me. I didn't know that, if that's true.
Yeah, the amount of bridges the UK has that are kind of duplicates.
Anyway, sorry. Took it off to bring it back on. A kind of trivia. We almost didn't get Steve Carell as Frank. So most of you probably know. So this film took around about 5 years to make. And when he was originally casted in the part, so initially they wanted Bill Murray. Said no. Then they wanted to ask Robbie Williams. Robin Williams. Sorry, I always find it confusing. Anyway, Robin Williams, but he turned it down. And I think either one of the producers or writers or whatnot were kind of advocating for Steve Carell to do the role. And I think some of the kind of people leading this film project were like, but I'm not sure. Like, he's barely known. Is he well known enough to really put on this cast? Because we want someone who's known enough, like, to kind of bring in ticket sales and different things and whatnot. And we don't know if he could really do it well enough. And this was just before he blew up. So he blew up with The Office and 40-Year-Old Virgin. And once that happened and he blew up, he became a household name. Then all the people who would lead in the film were like, oh, we got to get him to promote the film. He has to come to all the promotions. Come. So it was interesting timing because he almost didn't get to play this part. But as soon as they eventually released the film, they were just like, oh yeah, we definitely have to get this guy because he's such a big name now. So it's quite cool. But
Star was on the rise.
yeah, Star was on the rise. Yeah.
I'm glad that he got it. He did a good job.
It's lots of little moments I like about the film, or just I don't know. It's just random, kind of like what, like how when they got stopped by the police, and we're obviously expecting the worst. They've run away with the body, like and all sorts of stuff, and then he makes the situation worse by like, no, don't make it seem all suspicious. Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. Anyway, sorry.
I love that.
Nice.
That's exactly what he's doing. And then what saves him is the Grandpa's and Frank's dirty mags. It's just like, and even what he's like, kind of, he's going along with it, and then he sees Frank's dirty mag, and then he's obviously like, yeah, you know what, you keep that. Yeah, just take care. Just it's just like no. It's like, but it's like when he gets back in the car, the wife's like, what was that? Yeah, I'll tell you. What was the line he said? I'll tell you. I can't remember now.
Oh yeah, he was having some sort of like really strong physical reaction, like I'll tell you when my heart stops palpitating or something like that.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, wait, get out and push the car, please. It's just like it all in the horn. It's just everything all together. It's just like, but yeah, I feel for a kid when they find out he's colorblind.
That's the only bit of the film.
Yeah, I was like, no, and then you were telling me before they told me, it's like, yeah, because he's colorblind, he can't fly, and I was like, no, and then you said it, and the kid's like, it's like,
that was brutal. I think they did such a good job of like that. Like I really unfortunately he like the character of Dwayne really brought me back to like what it was like to be a teenager, and like I just felt so bad for him because I felt really bad for him. He did a really good job of that, like just like imploding and then refusing to go anywhere after, just like was like, wow, what are they gonna do with this one? Yeah, that sucked.
yeah. Also, another role that almost happened.
Sorry, I'm fucking pain everyone.
That's right. For Richard, we almost got Thomas Hayden Church.
The guy from Spider-Man.
Yes. They wanted to cast him before who played Richard again?
I forget his name. That dude.
Greg Kinnear.
Huh? Yeah. Sorry. Checking something on my phone.
I don't know who he is. I'm trying to find his filmography.
You've seen him in Spider-Man.
I don't. Who is he in Spider-Man?
I can't remember.
The Sandman.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
the
dad.
Sandman. Oh.
Maybe, but that's probably the thing most people know him from. He's in Easy A, Hellboy, one of the Mad Maxes. He's done a lot of stuff, but yeah, Sandman is probably the one most people know him from.
I've not seen almost any.
That okay. I mean, we're going back quite a bit.
Yeah, how far back I was trying to go to recognize something.
I think he might have been on a 90s TV show or something too.
Probably, to be honest, he's got a long filmography. To be honest, so yeah, wouldn't be surprised. But I'm glad the cast was what it was.
Yeah.
He turned it down. He said he regretted it later on, but I think it worked better with Greg. He said, "Yeah, I think it worked better with him."
I think I think I loved the cast myself too. Yeah, I think everybody did such an amazing job, and even just like Abigail is so impressive. Child actors can be really hit and miss. I think she did a pretty good job.
Yeah, she was great.
Yeah, and for the role, she even had to wear a kind of bodysuit or fat suit the whole time because she didn't weigh enough, or what, she didn't look big enough. So that wasn't her actual size.
That's what I was thinking. I figured that. Yeah.
Is she still?
I think so.
I don't think I've seen her in anything since she was a kid.
Yeah, I think if she's been in stuff, she's not nothing.
Was that her in Zombieland, or am I thinking of somebody else?
Huh?
Was she in Zombieland?
Yeah, she was.
Yes.
Oh wow, that was her.
With your favourite Emma Stone. Sorry, I felt compelled to get the digging.
I understand. Fair.
The biggest things probably besides that, Orange County. I've heard that but never watched it.
Orange County, did you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's in that with Jack Black.
She's also in Signs. She's also in Signs.
Oh yeah.
Oh, she was precious in that movie. Oh, she was adorable.
That's a future pick of mine that I know Alex and moan about.
It's a sign.
Good on.
I like that's a good one.
Huh?
Oh, I'm looking forward to Signs as a pick. She was in Signs.
I know someone else said
Pat's pick it.
Oh, Pat. Okay.
At some point, you know what I'm like. I'll be like, that's a pick. Maybe 20 years down the line.
I mean, it's your turn next, so we'll see how it goes.
It's definitely not Signs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does anyone know of the film Maggie?
Yes, with Arnie.
Yeah, she's in that.
Yes, she is.
Oh,
Great
cool.
film.
She's done a lot more than I thought.
That's probably one of Arnie's best acting jobs.
Really?
Yeah, this is one of his first ones after he got voted out as governor.
Really?
Yeah, it's a film I really liked. I might add that to my list too.
I haven't seen it.
It is a film with cannibalistic zombies in it.
Yeah.
Well.
But man, this game. There's a film I did want to watch at some point.
What's that?
Ender's Game.
Oh.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh.
That's got Harrison Ford in it, hasn't it?
I don't know. I only wanted to watch it at one point because I wanted to read the book
Oh,
because before the film came out, I think the book had a lot of praise for it, and then the film came out with the actor I really like from Boy in Striped Pajamas.
Mm.
Oh, the boy himself.
But I
think-
never watching it.
I think I watched that when I was unemployed before I got imprisoned by Smith's Toys.
Yeah, that was what, like 2013 or something?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, I did see it. I don't remember. it
I don't
being
think I saw it
amazing,
with
but-
you.
I don't know, maybe I did. Oh, yeah, I remember us, like, we probably talked about it and it was okay.
Yeah.
It was a film at the time.
I think
But
at
it
the
might-
time, I think
Okay.
where now I'll do like double headers and see like the one that you're interested the most with you, and then watch the other one by myself. At that point, I just saw everything by myself. So I remember you and Rob giving me a hard time about it. It's like, we wanted to see that too.
Should we do favorite scene?
Oh yeah. You want to do favorite scenes since it's quite late?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's nearly half one already. You guys go first because I haven't decided yet.
It's probably the cliche scene of, to me, the one that spoke to me, like I thought was widely poignant. Obviously, because it does have its problems, as we've spoke about it. But I thought it was really poignant when Olive's like crying and they're sleeping in the motel, going to bed, and she and Grandpa and sharing the same bedroom, and she's like talking and crying and worrying about losing the pageant, and then Grandpa has this has that great little monologue, and it's just like a real loser is someone who's so afraid of winning he doesn't even try, and I felt that was quite really touching, and it kind of like it works to enough for her to come to terms with the whole thing. It's just like, yeah, it doesn't matter if you don't win the pageant. It's kind of like basically taking part. It's like you don't have to win, but you can have to take part. So a real loser is not even to try, and that's the whole point that he's trying to convey to her. And she kind of, it clicks in her head at that. And then it's like, yes, you can keep sounding. But I thought that was a really good moment of wisdom from Grandpa, who at that point was quite like, you didn't really take him seriously, a bit of a joke character, but then he has that moment to kind of like, yeah, this guy there is a point to him, I felt. And there was a great poignancy in what he meant. Yeah,
I think one of the grandpa scenes when he says to the dad, "You tried, it didn't work, but you tried," which is more than a lot of people ever did, more than I ever did. And they kind of they seem to have a bit of a touchy relationship, and it was nice seeing that moment of tenderness between them two as characters. And I kind of got the impression that, okay, he's probably got more and more kind of wild and inappropriate as he's got older, but I'm sure as a dad, as a parent, he dispensed a lot of wisdom and was kind of really good at building his family up when they really needed it. I thought that was just a really sweet kind of moment for that.
Yeah. Just before say my favorite scene, because I'm still kind of deciding which one to choose. A reference that Ben might appreciate. The directors before filming this had done the video 1979 music video 1979 for the Smashing Pumpkins.
Oh,
There's a reference to it when Frank bought the mags. It came to 1979.
oh, cool, nice. That's so like niche, but I like it.
Yeah. And like the Stan Grossman character, which you probably already know, was a nod to the go-to guy in Fargo.
Mm-hmm.
They like the Coen brothers. I mean, a lot of people do. So they make a nod to their film.
Yeah, nice. Oh, that reminds me of like the scene with Hank Schrader's actor coming in, just the policeman pulling up the car. Obviously, we spoke about it before, about the magazines and stuff, and he's like, "Yeah, nice," and it's like they find like the gay porno mag, and he's like, "Yeah." Yeah, and he changes his tone, but at the same time, he's still perverted enough, and okay, like, yeah, you do what you do, and I'll let you drive because you're a dirty man like me, kind of thing. Oh man, it was so cringe, but
it didn't make sense.
yeah.
Do you think he would hide this by just leaving it like this in the back, or you like hastily hid it?
Yeah, so just like random magazines, and it's like, oh, is that what is in the boot? You're not going to check the big crazy like black bag that contains the grandpa. But yeah.
But I think even with how crazy any of it is, it's just like, I couldn't imagine people in America doing that.
Yeah,
like,
that's the thing. You can imagine there's police cops like him and people like them that will do that, and cops that would be like turn a blind eye because yeah, just yeah, that's what's stupid about it.
Yeah, like she said, less now that we're in the body cam era. Yeah, but at the time, I was thinking more about someone hiding mags, just hastily in the back while their family.
Yeah, just thrown randomly in the back, like not hiding.
To be honest, I mean, and I don't know what was going on in this family's life, but even when I was a kid, I must have been like 9 going on 10 or something. And one of my friend's moms was just like, she gave me this box, whatever stuff. She said, can you just throw that in the trash over there? Go to the bin over there and throw this over there. And I was like, okay. I don't know why she was asking me, but I was like, whatever. And I think I kind of like trip and fell at some point. And it was just a whole box of porn mags. Just like the whole box was full. I'm just sitting there shocked, like, what? What? Huh? And eventually I got myself together and kind of put this stuff in and not threw it away. I'm just like, what? Like, looking back, I'm just like, why are you giving a kid
She gave you a box and she said to put the box in. Was it a heavy box?
It must not have been crazy heavy since as a kid I could carry it, but still, it's like, I'm just confused. Why are you asking a kid to dispose of it? Just doesn't seem quite right. Could this not have waited? Anyway. Favorite scene. I feel like there's a few scenes, especially near the end, like when you have Frank and Dwayne bonding, like the whole kind of, just the whole bonding they're having. Even before that, when Dwayne kind of loses it and Olive's able to just hug him after, and it's like she learned the lesson when he said, go hug mom. Instead of talking, she just hugs him. It's like, okay, yeah. And then he got up, and it's like, and for multiple reasons, and like Camilla said, like maybe they said different things, but both Frank and Dwayne went in there and immediately was like, no, all of it is no. She is going out. And how he's just like, no, this is effed up. Like, she should not be here. And the dad was like, he's right. And blah, blah, blah. And we need to. And then the both like, well, let me just, leave it to Olive. And they respect her choice. It's just like that whole family's bonding. They've been through some mess. And saying that, the whole situation with them driving pretty much the whole way with a broken clutch actually happened to the rider in his family as a kid growing up. Their VW. Don't know why they were driving that many miles, but they drove like a similar number of miles, like 600 miles. They drove like 600 whatever miles in a VW with a broken clutch. And that kind of inspired him to put that in the script. I was just like, oh man, this is just different levels to this. This is all crazy. But yeah, and then at the end where it's just like even like in real life, getting Greg to do the dance, he was so embarrassed. Like his wife had to like kind of convince him to do the dance because I think he has a kind of almost a complex in the way. He gets teased a lot about how bad his dancing is, even when he's trying. So he really didn't want to do the scene and even wanted it to be deleted. But his wife convinced him to get on stage and do the dance. But like even like aside that, like the whole family, like that first dance and everyone else was just like, yeah, let's just do it. And it's just like, F y'all, just F F all this. And it's like, even when they was being supportive and clapping, it's just, despite how messed up it all is, it's just like the bonding. And it's just like, you know what? This is great. Like, the grandpa, the dad just died. Like, the car is wrecked. They are basically close to bankruptcy. But you know what? They are freaking together. They've got each other. And it's going to be okay. And I'm assuming Greg's probably going to get a normal job after this. He's probably still going to be pushing his 9 steps, but he might be working down at Costco somewhere just to make it, to help them make ends meet.
He's going to join perfect. I'm going to be a motivational speaker or a life coach.
Oh man, there's for context. Does anyone not know what an MLM is?
No.
Okay, an MLM is the word for the illegal pyramid schemes, multi-level marketing that happen everywhere pretty much, but it's notorious in America.
Like Avon and Mary Kay and Tupperware. And
Avon and Mary Kay are like low-key MLMs. And the worst kind of pyramid schemes are basically, they are all cults, basically. And that's a whole rabbit hole. If you get interested, you can get down yourself. But long story short, you get recruited. You have to pay money to get into this business opportunity. You sell products, but you make money by recruiting more people. And everything is a trap to kind of make it so that you make almost no money and get into further debt.
It's like
so
impossible.
You have to quit.
Well, it's impossible to make. It's not impossible. It's very difficult to make money in an MLM. But the reason I said he is the sort of person who's joining MLM is because there's a lot of that kind of grind set, get up and hustle. If you're not making money on social media, what are you doing? Kind of.
Yeah, I stopped working 9 to 5 to start working 6 to 7. I work all day, every day.
Yeah, that's an Eminem. I don't think that's an Eminem.
Emmanuel's just sold it. Emmanuel's just sold it to me.
Slim Shady.
It's mad. And the stuff that still goes on these days it is. It kind of. I'll just say two things because I know I'm like digressing so much. I really feel for a lot of people who get preyed on by a lot of these people saying, we can help you. We can help you be the mom you really want to be and spend more time with your kids, working from home and doing this and doing that, only for them to get in crippling debt. They've got a car that they technically is in their name, but they can't afford the payments because the company has stopped giving them money because they're not making enough sales, and they're not lying to enough young people to recruit them, and all sorts of madness. And it just reminds you of just how many toxic, strange people there are out there that do some of this stuff. Anyway, that was my favorite scenes.
It's good.
I'm probably going to stick with the last scene. There were a couple. The one of them is kind of problematic, but I found really funny. It was when he was talking to, or he was giving advice to his grandson. I'm not going to recite any of it because it is quite problematic, but it did really make me laugh. And obviously the cop scene, which is mad because he opens up the trunk of the car or the truck or whatever it is and sees the magazines laying on top of a body. The sheet is in the shape of a body. I'm like, how has he not figured this out? Or maybe he just didn't care. He's like just into it for what he could get out of the person he arrests. But no, the best scene is the one at the end for me. I think it sort of finished up the sort of family redemption story quite well. I think any of the problems that the characters presented, I think, sort of went away, and they were all one.
Nice. I think my favorite part of the movie was when they were at the gas station. A lot of stuff happened when they were at that gas station. Like when they were stopped over and Greg Kinnear was talking on the phone, and Frank and the grandpa were hanging out in the van for a little while. And at first, my impression of the grandpa was not the best, especially in the beginning. And I found him really questionable. But then they start they're interacting, and the grandpa gives him cash to buy the magazines, and and he also, one part I liked is he insulted him and also supported him at the same time. But get one for yourself, get a mag for yourself. And he called it something awful that I won't repeat. But I'm just at the same time, oh, that's nice. He wants him to have something for himself. Um, and when they leave and everybody is just blissfully on their way, and the teenage son is the one that realizes that Olive is not in the van.
Where's Olive?
Yeah. And he has to write it on the note, right? Because he's not talking at that point still. He's just where's Olive? and they don't even stop for her. She has to run, and they scoop her up. And
stop.
You know what I'm thinking of? Probably somebody seeing that happen. You were did they just abduct her? Is she with them? Yeah, that scene also offered so much tension too, because that's where Frank runs into the young guy that he was in love with, right? Ooh, that was awful. I was a little anything could have happened after that. That whole scenario with him had just happened days ago, right? So it's just wow, that's intense. So that was my favorite, the gas station. A lot happened there. And I think I had thought about something else, but I've forgotten, but yeah. Oh no, it was when they were leaving the gas station for the first time when they forgot Olive, and like the parents were like arguing because his business thing just like fell through, right? And it's so awkward, and she's freaked out. And then they decide to just like stop talking and like, get on the road. And and how that scene ends is like they have to get the car going by just like rolling off. It's just like awkward silence and then rolling away. I thought this is perfect. What I loved about this movie is just like how well they did the like little comedic relief. It was just really enjoyable.
Yeah. One thing I didn't, two things I didn't realize about Dwayne and the mom was one that, even though they did say it, they referenced it on 2 occasions, I didn't realize Dwayne was from her first marriage.
Yeah.
Yeah, in Florida. She said, but I didn't really catch that. I mean, I tend to miss many things anyway.
Oh, never mind.
There's reasons why I rewind many times, and you don't have to. This is just.
I had no idea. I'm just finding this out right now.
But yeah, so yeah, he's from the first marriage, and yeah, Olive is from the current family kind of marriage as we see it, which is why Dwayne, when he's really mad, says divorce or divorcee, whatnot, divorce, bankrupts, even though it makes sense in the context that it seems like they would want to get a divorce because of the argument they had. But she's also a divorcee. So.
Okay. Yeah, like you said, like I thought he said divorce because like they were about to get a divorce or something. I didn't make that connection. Oh.
Yeah, me neither until I was reading afterwards. I was like, oh, wait. Oh. And on a kind of real life note, I didn't realize the age gap between Dwayne and the mom was only 12 years.
Uh-oh.
So Dwayne is 21 playing a 15-year-old. Did pretty well. I mean, I thought he was maybe like 18, 19.
You mean Paul Dano, right? I'm getting the names messed up.
When they shot the film, he was 21, and she was 33.
Wow.
Older.
That makes sense because it's like now they look in the same sort of age bracket. Paul Dano and Toni Collette.
Well, yeah, I thought so. It's the actors' ages that are so close, but the character ages were like more sensical.
Yeah, the character's age were more sensical. Plus, if his character age was 15, yeah, she only really needs to be like 33 for it to make sense. And that was, she was actually 33 in real life. So that would actually make sense. Yeah, I just didn't realize that. I was like, oh, they did well, acting and kind of makeup wise and stuff like that, for me not to realize the age gap was not big enough for that. Yeah.
I'm surprised that Paul Dano was 21 because like they aged him down pretty good.
Yeah. I think his acting probably helped a lot. I think, it probably definitely helped. But yeah, they did well.
Yeah. Is Simon around? Did he want to do his favorite scene?
Like thinking of it, to be honest, right? I'm struggling to book out like a scene that hasn't been chosen in a row. I mean, like her getting left at the gas station, them opening the door and go, Olive, quickly, run, and her have to like use her little legs just to like catch up was quite funny. I'm just thinking, Is that my favorite scene? I don't know. I guess a favorite scene, will be like choosing like which was your favorite actor and following their like story arc. I do think. What's the son's name? It was What did you say? It was Paul, right? Or what was the son's name? I can't remember.
Dwayne.
Dwayne. Just his character. Just seeing his character was generally funny because like I mean like we've all been that emo kid before, and like he's had his goal and he's worked so hard for it. Then his first words in the entire film is, and it's just like something. There's a certain uniqueness about it where like it doesn't say anything for the entire film until right about halfway, and he says a swear word, and it's something. Yeah, something really like I don't know if nice is the way, but it's something unique about it, and it's like, yeah, it's the perfect sort of character, and it's just like, it's just something, yeah, it's just something he goes, yeah, I get you, as a character and as a human being, it's like, yeah, the most thing I relate to you very much, so unfortunately. Yeah, it's like that's the best way to describe it. And seeing it all work out in the end with their broken dysfunctionalness, but still getting that car one more time and break one more thing of that. What was it, the car park barrier? I go, yeah. No, they're leaving. Just break one more thing. They're like pushing a lamp off the table. It's like, yeah, that's perfect. It's like great sort of ending. That's perfect. Yeah.
And when they drove back out in the back to the barrier,
I couldn't remember how that went out. Like I had seen it once before and I couldn't remember. I almost thought that they were gonna like rear end that lady and like push her out of the way or something.
To be honest, she probably felt the same. She was like, what's going on? And then they drove by. It's like, to the barrier again because they can't stop there.
It's just like, I mean, like without bringing it like to obvious a point, right? Because like there's traffic stops during that, like in any city. So how did they start the car back up? Because he's stuck in like gear 3, so he has to stop the car. So how does he? When he stops at a light, doesn't he? Does that mean he has to push every time?
I think fortunately, they will have to do that once they get back in Albuquerque. But for the sake of the film, fortunately, they were only on highways and freeways for the whole time. And even when they came to the hotel, if you notice, they came off the kind of like freeway, highway, whatnot. And then they went straight into a place you're not meant to drive, a parking lot, and then they just kept going. And that's basically from that kind of hotel. I think it's one of those hotels that's like just off the side of a highway. So you don't.
Okay.
That way. So you don't actually need to cross any lights. So fortunately, they shouldn't need to stop at any lights until they get back into Albuquerque.
Well, okay, I'll say that makes sense, but it's like as my angry little friend would say, that's a contrivance. But we'll see how it goes.
Exact same thing.
Like having you pointed that out, I do wonder. Like, it was nice of them to leave the hotel by how they came in, like crashing through the barrier. But like I'm thinking, like, wouldn't it have made more sense for them to just like get their like car towed away to like a garage from the hotel or something like that? I don't know.
Yeah, it would have, because they're saying that. Yeah, they can't afford it. It might actually be cheaper for them to go back home. And to be honest, most people know someone who can get them a discount with something. And at least if they get back home, which they're going to eventually have to get back home anyway, it would be cheaper to stay at home while waiting for the part, then to add on even more hotel and motel charges before they ultimately have to stay in more motels on the way home, and they're close to being bankrupt. So, yeah.
Yeah, really good point. Yeah. One other thing that I questioned myself, I don't know if anybody else will know much about this, but you know, if Dwayne had literally like actually not spoken for 9 months, I think the story had said, the voice, the vocal cords, like something happens to them when they're like really not being in use like that. And I question, like, would he have gone back to normal that fast? Especially after yelling his first word. That's something I wonder about myself. Yeah.
Yeah, you've got a really good point.
He probably was speaking at school, to be fair.
I doubt he was. Like,
Yeah, how long was it again?
9 months.
Oh, that's a long time.
No.
Yeah, if it was like 9 days, no problem. 9 months? That's a good point.
it definitely would have been much more crackly.
Yeah, you'd be like,
But yeah, while it, yeah, I guess it's not as authentic as it could be in that way. To be honest, I don't mind as much. I mean, it wasn't the highest budget film.
yeah.
I could imagine them trying to record this guy talking really low and broken and croaky, and basically you can't pick up almost anything he said.
You'd have to subtitle him, which would be like, oh, wait, what? What did he say?
It'd be Bane 2.0.
Yeah, literally.
I do, even, sorry, on a side note, I do get why they raised his voice. I just wish they didn't in Bane, because the test screening shot where his voice was lower, they were so much better. He was so much menacing. It's like so much more menacing. But
yeah,
it sounds like Yoda. It is just like,
they overcompensated his voice. Like, yeah, you can have his. They just need to do his voice again lower, and just lower the mix of everything else down a bit. Maybe that's what they should do. I don't know.
I wonder if there's like a version out there where someone has actually gone through the movie and done that. Because I would rewatch the film to see that, because it had such a different effect. In the few scenes I saw, it really had a big impact. Like, he really did well with his voice. Like, it really gave that kind of menacing presence. But
yeah, that's the trouble with like dialects and vocal coaching and stuff. Like, sometimes the best performances aren't the ones that most people could decipher. Yeah. So they probably just went from that, and which is a shame. But I guess Tom Hardy has, since then, he's been like, look, so this, I'm going to make the most mental voice. I can think of the most crazy voice ever. Like, every film he's done since, he's always put in a weird accent, and we love him for it. Because it all go to the character he plays so well. And it just works.
Plus, to be in that film, it's mostly down to Christopher Nolan. He does not care about legibility. When it comes to the sound of his film, he gets cussed for it all the time.
Yeah.
And he's just like, it's realistic, deal with it.
Put subtitles on, it's fine.
Or else we're going to lose money. You don't have a choice. We're doing this with. Sorry, just thought it.
Yeah, Bane is on the mind. Like you said earlier, like I said in the gift, there can be no true despair without hope. It says it all.
I forgot you said that gift.
It's good.
Yeah, it's truly a journey. Truly. Yeah. Anything else before we move on?
Before we call it a do.
Mm. I was like, it was a good pick, Emmanuel. I really enjoyed it. Well, problems
Yes.
and all.
Yes. It's
Yeah,
about-
what's more?
The next one will definitely be very different. Not any hard subjects. At least for a bit, maybe. Yeah. This is yeah. Yeah. I'll spread those kind of picks out. Anyway,
yeah.
Just every 2 rounds, isn't it?
Huh?
Yeah.
Every 2 rounds.
Yeah.
Every 2 rounds is still like a few months, so that's fine actually.
Oh, no. Wait until you hear what Pat's picking next. There we go.
What?
Grimness
Oh.
returns.
Pat, what's your next film?
So I had to give this one a think over. Like I wanted to pick something not my usual stuff, and I come across something that I'd watched years ago, one that I really like, and it sort of set a trend for modern day zombie horror films. So I am picking Night of the Living Dead,
Okay.
which
Ooh.
now is going to be the second lowest budget of Film Club.
Wow.
What was the
114,000.
first one Rob's pick?
Dark Star, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so Night of the Living Dead's my pick, and you can find it. Give me one sec. Apple TV, Amazon, Google Play, or if you've got a Mubi account, you can watch it on there as well.
Sweet.
Awesome.
What did it come out? What year did it come out?
1968.
Oh man.
That's super ahead of its time. Like the
I like
first zombie movie ever.
I mean, there was zombie films before it, but this one sort of set the trend of everything that's come. So, like, without this, you wouldn't have Dawn of the Dead or
Terrible movie.
but well, I like them both. Or The Walking Dead. Even Shaun of the Dead being a comedy version of it. Like, you wouldn't have got any of those without this film. So George Romero has a lot. I'm thankful to him for a lot of things.
Ooh. Nice.
Hopefully you enjoy it, but I know it's an acquired taste. Not everyone enjoys zombies. I felt like I needed to pick a zombie film.
I'm into zombies. I haven't watched many older zombie films though, so this will be
Yeah.
an interesting trip.
I haven't watched this in a long time, so I don't know how well it holds up. But I mean, I did the same with The Birds a few years ago,
Yeah.
and it doesn't really hold up great, but it was a good time.
We did pick The Bird. Someone picked it.
Yeah, I picked it.
Yeah. That was good. I liked it.
Yeah, the
I'm
first was-
hoping this has the same effect.
Talking about zombie films, have you seen Train to Busan, Corey?
It's on my list. It's been on my list for ages.
Oh, what a film!
I get her to
Yeah,
watch.
I've told us to watch it like several times.
Just don't watch any of the sequel stuff for it because they're not that good.
Yeah, not as good at all. There's only been one, to be fair.
To be makes sense that there was a sequel because the film does like the point is not the end of their story, but it's also it's emotional. It is great. The zombies aren't the focus; they're just happening. And
Yeah.
I that's part of what I really like about it is more focused on the human side of what's going on. And yeah, it's just wrapped up in a nice film package. So yeah, this is good.
That sounds really good. Yeah.
Yeah, great. I think it brought a tear to my eye right at the end. or made me feel emotional anyway. It's just like
You and Rob are very emotional movie watchers, though.
Me too. It sounds like I'm gonna cry too.
I'm still 2 for 260 in terms of films that have made me cry in this film club.
Yeah.
And one is an animated one.
It's okay.
Which animated one?
Lion King. Mufasa dying gets me every time.
Oh, right, yeah.
I've seen it about 600 times and it still gives me the same reaction. And the other one was Blackfish or Darkfish. I can't remember what the name was.
No, you're thinking of the big ass fish.
Big Fish, that's the one. I must have watched something called Blackfish as well, but it's...
Oh, Blackfish was a documentary, actually.
Yeah. I get mixed up with the names, yeah. Big Fish was the other one that made me go.
Awesome. Well, cool thing.
That's everyone's challenge, to make put on a film that makes me cry. Because it's not an easy challenge.
That's just a needle in a haystack, maybe.
Emmanuel's already given up.
If this didn't make you cry, you know what? It's okay. I'm done. I won't try that way.
I mean, no, Capernaum I did not enjoy watching at all. I think it's probably the least fun I've had, but it was a really well-made film.
Less fun than Antichrist.
That was
Ooh,
different.
that's it's a different sort of pain.
Yeah, Antichrist for me was somehow a movie that was allowed to be made by a hack. It's probably not, technically it's not the worst film made that we've had. That one was last week. But yeah, it wasn't very good.
Last
And to be
week was
fair-
looking those 0.5 scores looking pretty good. Hey, Pat.
No, we're sticking with the ones. I know you and Rachel are working on me for that, but nah.
If you can have one, can we have -1?
There's always someone that's got to go even further down.
Yeah. Take care, y'all. And
Let's call that adieu. Good night, guys.
I'll see you guys who's coming out Wednesday, and
Yeah.
the rest of you, I'll see you next week.
See you Wednesday. See you next week. Good night, guys. Bye.
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 Right.
Bye.